Esmeyer backpedaling, running out of time, spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Trying to force the play, and it's intercepted. BJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hickner off to the races. Hickner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go, 365 Sports. We take you up until 6 over the next 3 hours every afternoon. 365 Sports on YouTube, on Twitter, and also so much more. Please, if you haven't, hit the like button early. And if you haven't subscribed to the show, we'd appreciate that. Spread the word at your convenience. Now, a couple of things in recruiting to get to. BYU. Now, this is a quarterback who is highly ranked. He cannot play, or he can play next year, but he's going to go on a Latter-day Saints mission trip. 5-star quarterback Ryder Lyons, who was committed to Oregon for a long time, has committed to BYU. He said in an interview earlier today that he will not play his first year on campus. He will be able and be on campus to play for BYU in 2027.
Can you say that again? I got lost in the
Yeah, he's not playing for 2 years because he's going to go to a mission after high school, which is just the simple way that goes.
Oh, yeah. It was no. I got lost for a second in what you were saying. If you would have said it was my fault, not yours.
Well, no, I mean, he committed to BYU, had been a long-time commit to Oregon. He will not play his freshman year at BYU because he will be on a Latter-day Saints mission trip.
Okay, yeah, because
I'm sorry.
that part I was like, oh, okay, there we go. That's all I need. I just needed a little clarification. I'm sorry.
He's out of California.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. Apparently 6'2", 205. It's a big deal, obviously, for BYU. And so there we are with the Cougars and Kalani Sitake with that commitment.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive for BYU. It's a huge deal for BYU.
You guys acted like it wasn't for a second.
It was just no. It's huge.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Greg.
Okay. Yeah, it's an absolutely massive deal for BYU. Big time 5-star commit and a huge historic day for the Cougars. And I think that having the exposure of the Pat McAfee show and all of the people that were talking about this, it's a boon for them and something that they can really utilize in recruiting and just promotions. And the PR side of things are getting a lot of great attention today. And then, of course, on the field, it's a massive deal as well to get one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country for his class, a 5-star, one of the highest rated players they've ever signed in program history. I mean, you can go on and on and on about why this is a big deal. Comes from, BYU background with his father, deeply entrenched and well-known family there. And he's a former player, his father. So yeah, there's a lot to like about this. There's a lot to unpack from it. I think what everybody was trying to say at the beginning was, first of all, it's just, you can put to the side when he's going to play because today is about the commitment itself. But yeah, he's going to, like most guys, go on a mission trip after high school. So the earliest you would see him, in case you were also confused, is 2027 for BYU. So there's always the chance that he could, I don't know, not make it there somehow or another. But I think with his family background and all of that, you're having to count down a ways to finally see him. But it's going to be a fun countdown once he finally does land there in a couple of years.
According to what reports I read, he's the highest-ranked recruit BYU has had since 2002.
His brother plays at USC, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, his brother plays at USC. I saw when he said he was going to commit, I guess it was last week, most of the comments were, going to go play with his brother, going to go play with his brother, going to go play with his brother, but going to go play for Kalani Sitake. And it's a huge get for them. And here's the thing. He's going to play in 2027, right? So he'll come back, and even though he'll be a freshman then, he'll be an older freshman, and hopefully he can hit the ground running. Although a lot of those guys will say that, first 6 months after the mission where you haven't really been doing football stuff, even though most of them keep in shape. I remember both the Barrington brothers I interviewed when Sikkim owned us. I asked them about that, and they said, yeah, that first 6 months after you get back is pretty hard because you've been working out and doing things, but you're also not doing football workouts like everybody else is. But I think he should be able to probably hit the ground running once he gets there. He's a very talented player.
Also, Baylor has been on a pretty good heater. They got Dave Aranda, 4-star safety Jordan Deck. He's from Lone Star High School in Frisco, where they have another commitment as well. He is a very heavily recruited safety, and the schools that were in his top 5 were Colorado, Michigan, Penn State, UCLA. Now, Baylor's recruiting this class. We don't discuss a lot of that, but today with what happened with BYU and the great commitment there with Ryder Lyons, but also that Baylor seems to have one of their best classes in a long, long time. Last year's class was pretty good, but they are winning straight-up battles, at least for now, with a few months left to go until signing day. They do pick up a huge commitment from Jordan Deck.
Yeah, they've done very well, and this is building to be one of their highest rated classes in a while. Obviously they changed their NIL strategy a year ago, and when you're coming off a season where you won all the last part of your games until the bowl game and played an epic bowl game against LSU, people are going to notice you a little bit more and go back to, hey, they won a Big 12 championship a couple years ago. I think mostly now it's about making sure your NIL is in order before anything else. And they seem to have that going for them right now, and settlement and all that stuff, whatever happens out of that. But yeah, they've been closing recruits at a better clip for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice day for both those schools to get a couple of good players. I mean, for Baylor, they've been slow and steady and quietly just kind of doing their thing, I guess, unless you're paying real close attention to them. I don't feel like that's really a program that's getting a lot of outside attention at the moment. They're just kind of there. But if you are paying attention, then they are stocking up some good players, particularly in the secondary, and that could bode well for the future. I mean, the young man today is a highly rated guy. It doesn't compare to Ryder Lyons, obviously, being a big-time 5-star quarterback, but it is a big get for Dave Aranda and that defense. So, a couple big pickups. They're 5th in the rankings right now in the Big 12. BYU is at 4, obviously getting a 5-star probably nudge them up a little bit and certainly nudge them above Baylor, but that's 2 5-star quarterbacks now in the Big 12 committed with Sean Henderson down at Houston, and I know he's got everybody in the country coming after him. I feel better about BYU hanging on to Lyons, given his background, whereas Houston could very well hang on to Henderson, but I just think it's going to be walking a tightrope to try to hang on to him, given how much teams are after him. But if both schools can keep their guys, and obviously Henderson could come in and play right away, and Lions would have to wait a year, as we've cleared up now, then that'd be great for the league and great for those programs specifically. Not everything has to be about the league as a whole, but certainly having a couple 5-star quarterbacks jumping in around the same time and boosting those respective programs is good for the whole. So, it's a good day for BYU, if not a great day. Good day for Baylor, and it's a lot of attention right now on Provo. I've seen a lot of people who typically don't pay attention to them, talking about them today. So that was a big deal to have it on McAfee, as we said at the beginning, was something that made it even a bigger deal to announce in that fashion. So recruiting is not something that's really front burner as much anymore, but there are certain days when it is, and today is one of those days.
Kansas State, Bracket Cat brought this up, and Kansas State's got about a half a dozen commitments for who are seniors coming up this year to play football with the Wildcats and Coach Chris Kleiman, including the quarterback I saw last year, Miles Tedecki from Vandergrift. They won a state championship last year. He's not he's a 3-star guy, but wanted to bring that up because they've done a great job in the state of Texas. All right? Man, why am I getting these looks like I'm completely clueless? I can do that without you guys looking at me as I'm completely. I don't think so. So, Bracket Cat, thanks for bringing that up.
I only think you're partially cluelly.
Yeah, no, it's
not completely.
I feel like this rundown, I just do it and no one looks at it or something. I don't know. Maybe I positioned it all wrong. Steve Spurrier knows quite a bit about great quarterback play and national championships. The Florida coach, known as the old ball coach. He was asked about Steve Sarkisian, asked about Arch Manning and UT and much more. And here's the quote that he put out. Paul, you love this. Most people are picking Texas to win the SEC in football. They've got Arch Manning already winning the Heisman too. My question is, if he's this good, how come they let Quinn Ewers play all the time last year? He was a 7th-round pick.
He echoes the feelings of many people at Austin last year. They were clamoring for Arch to get the starting job, and Sark would not, acquiesce to them on that. It was Quinn Ewers' job, and he went through injuries and came back and did that, which he's done every single year of his career. I'm sure there's a little bit of a point in this, but also, he lived in a day where you held quarterbacks back. I mean, he didn't start Danny Werfel day one. He didn't start those guys day one. So sometimes, Danny Werfel started for 3 years, don't get me wrong, but even still, I think there's some validity to this, and then some maybe, kind of old school Steve Spurrier to it. But I do love that he is ready to fight convention at every step around the way, because one thing about Texas, I didn't read the entire or listen to the whole podcast, but one thing, and we talked about this, they have a lot of really good recruits. They've done really well in the transfer portal. They've done that, but they lost a lot of veterans off that team from a year ago. So they're going to have maybe a little bit more of a curve than they did in 2024, to me, in 2025, to match what they were a year ago.
Yeah, I don't think what he said is really all that controversial or all that big of a deal. I don't know what kind of the reaction to that has been, but I guess it's notable when you have a guy as legendary as him, and anything that's said about Arch Manning, especially by somebody of substance, is a headline now. So I think he's not just drinking the Kool-Aid and assuming that Arch is going to be the greatest quarterback in the entire country right away, and that there were some signs last year of where he's going to be, needing some time in the saddle to improve and to further polish his game and all of that, he could very well come out and be the best quarterback in the country. But I don't know if everybody's just accepting that right away. Based on what you saw last year, there's a lot to like. But going ahead and put him on the top of all the rankings, I think, is a little bit premature. And probably would not be happening if his last name wasn't Manning and it didn't get a million clicks every time he's mentioned. But I do think he's very much a talent that could be that guy who lives up to that billing, which is as big a billing as you can possibly get for a quarterback. So I don't know. I don't really care much about opinions about Arch Manning at this point in the season from Spurrier or anybody else because it's going to get turned into clickbait and things like that. But I think it's valid to say, well, yeah, I mean, if he's the second coming, then why did Quinn Ewers play over him last year? And that's a valid question. I don't think it's a knock on Sark at all. Sark went with who he thought was better, and allowed Arch to marinate a little bit. And now it's Arch's turn. There's no question about it. And if he turns out to be as good as expected, then I don't think Steve Spurrier is going to be the last guy asking that question. But it's a valid question, and I'm just ready and excited to see what all the hype's about and see it in full and see it every single Saturday.
All right, so there we are with that. K-State, BYU, Baylor, some of the news, and then Steve Spurrier. And one of the things, again, that, if in fact Arch has a spectacular year and does do all the things that some people think he will, then you got to ask, should he have played more? And would they have won a national championship even last year? FSU's Thomas Castellanos. Paul, this is your buddy.
I don't know if he is.
Why is he driving you crazy?
Because, look, he's saying stuff like this. And hold on, I got to take my glasses off. Actually, I'll just read it from the computer. He did this interview with Pete Nakos, which, great. I love, reading these things and learning more about Thomas Castellanos, who's going to be the QB at FSU next year. I simultaneously love and hate it that he is this confident. And the reason I hate it is because perception versus reality. Now, look, I think he's being very open and honest. Bill O'Brien and I butted heads early in the season. I got banged up a few games. We had a meeting, and it kind of blew up in my face. I did so much for that program, and I just wasn't repaid the right way. So what he should have done is end it in, it just kind of blew up in my face. But when he's saying, I did so much for the program, I just wasn't repaid the right way. I mean, he had a losing record in his career against the ACC. So it's not like he brought them into the conference title picture. He was a fun player when he was starting, but he wasn't Matt Ryan for Boston College, right? I mean, so I like his confidence, but I do think that some of it is misplaced. And then he also, yesterday, he said, I feel like I've already torn up the ACC and now I've got a squad behind me. Yeah, I hope he does, but I don't think that those two things are running on concurrent tracks right now, and the proof will be in the pudding once he plays. I'm very nervous he's setting himself to get eaten alive by Alabama because they don't have Nick Saban to save anymore. Yeah, they still have Kalen DeBoer, a guy who was coaching in the national championship game 2 years ago. Trash talk is fine, but FSU was 2-10, and you got kicked off the team or quit the team at Boston College. So, just dial it back 5% for me.
Well, he did say, he goes, it kind of blew up in my face. It sounds like is he taking blame there, or is he just saying that what he wanted did not work out for him?
I just wasn't repaid the right way. So he was expecting something, and yes, it blew up in his face. But again, Bill O'Brien didn't recruit him. And Bill O'Brien, he well known for getting in conflicts with players in the NFL. And he very much lost the PR battle on the DeAndre Hopkins trade when he was running the Texans. But I mean, Thomas, I feel like Lloyd Benson here talking to Dan Quayle. I knew DeAndre Hopkins. I've seen DeAndre Hopkins. You, sir, are no DeAndre Hopkins. Yes, he was an exciting player. Yes, he beat the brakes off of FSU last year, and the year before almost beat them, if not for a really stupid defensive penalty at the end of the game when they went undefeated. He almost did it twice, and now he's there. Great. I hope it works out. Nobody on earth wants it to work out more than me. I just think that he's young and immature a little bit, and this is all kind of rattling around in his head a little bit. It makes me nervous.
All right,
as a fan. Craig, what do you – I know this is just off-season trash talk, but it's just a weird statement to make to me.
Which part? The Bill O'Brien or the Alabama? What are we talking about?
All of it, really. Like the way he talks about it.
I think he just sounds like a cocky young kid when he's talking about Alabama. I know it's been a lot of fodder for SEC people and Feinbaum and those guys, but I think they're also kind of chuckling at it as well because it's middle of the summer trash talk, and we're going to get a lot of that at media days. So I'm sure Alabama's already printed out his quote and put it on their wall as if they needed more motivation to play Florida freaking State, but they gave them some more chum in the water if that was needed at all. I don't really think that's a big deal other than just he'll have to, be the one on the receiving end of whatever blowback there is for that on the field. But as far as the Bill O'Brien and not what he got paid or what he deserved to be paid more or whatever, I mean, he started off his career at UCF, so he's a traveler to begin with. And as far as the Boston College part, I don't care. I don't know what he got or didn't get. I don't know what he felt he deserved or didn't deserve. I'd be more worried about just Thomas Castellanos at Florida State and what he's getting there. BC means nothing to me at this point. Now, for their fan base, it might, and so they can dig into that a little bit further. But I don't know. I don't know what he was expecting. I don't know what was offered. I don't know what their conversations were. And at this point, it doesn't really matter. So, do they play each other this year? Off the top of your head, I don't know.
I think so. Let me
well,
check.
if they do, there's some more fodder for that game. So there's at least something that comes out of this. But beyond that, I don't know about that little squabble with he and BC.
All right, this is interesting. 3 quarterbacks: Lenora Sellers, South Carolina; Kevin Jennings, who's been on our show.
They don't, by the way.
Okay. SMU, and Avery Johnson of K-State. They're investing in the Cashmere Fund. NIL deals, of course, back in the day were illegal. Now they are not. And these quarterbacks are now investing in VC funds. And this is a trend where they're trying to make a little bit of money.
Yeah. Not a, again, I don't know anything about the Cashmere Fund. I know, other than just what I read today, but I do think it's kind of an interesting like NIL thing to get involved in, is where you take some of that money and you invest and, it maybe teaches you how to be, a little bit more, financially proactive with your money. As these quarterbacks who are all getting a bunch of money, as starting quarterbacks in FBS football. But, again, and nothing's guaranteed in these VC funds. But I thought this is a much more interesting thing to me than buying a Lamborghini or something like that. Then, Lamborghinis only last for a little while. And if you don't make that money back, then you're not getting another Lamborghini, like you spent all that money, but making your money work for you. It's pretty interesting to me on this for these guys.
A lot of business opportunities for these guys. I hope they're listening to the right people. I don't know anything about having enough money to be a part of any VC deal or anything that would come with that territory. So that's completely out of my ballpark, but they're getting paid handsomely now. And they've got a lot of people in their ear. So I hope the people who are advising them in this or any other capacity have their best interest in mind. And, yeah, we could watch a lot of guys become 5-star teenagers or go from being 5-star teenagers to millionaires. I think we've already seen some of that. But, I mean, just how large are we talking? And if you start doing various investments and deals, I mean, what kind of money can you walk away with from your college career outside of just the normal original deal that you were offered? So long as they've got good people in their ear, then there's the saying, the world is your oyster. And I feel that way for college athletes, especially big time college football, SEC playoff caliber quarterbacks. So yeah, the world is the athlete's oyster right now in college athletics. And so they're taking full advantage of it, and hopefully they're not being taken advantage of.
All right, Boise State, we've had their AD, Jeremiah Dickey, on the show many, many times, and now they're having another way for their athletic department, for them to be able to add some money to try to find a way to continue, as they always talk about what's next, announcing Bronco Athletics Growth Solutions, a strategic entrepreneurial initiative designed to evaluate, accelerate non-traditional revenue opportunities, supporting the comprehensive growth and sustainability of Bronco Athletics. Paul, is this close to being like a private equity?
It is exactly private equity. That's what it is. And I do like the acronym BAGS. Like they're trying to get bags of cash. This is private equity. This is more and more going to get in, but yeah, this is exactly what it is. It's not, it is a private equity fund that is supporting them. And these are the teams you're going to see. USF also did a little private equity last week, although I don't know, the specific details of what they're promised and what they get back, this is the new era of private equity coming into college football and college athletics.
Well, Jeremiah Dickey has told us that and every AD that we've had on this show, that they have to find other ways to be able to find revenue streams and ways of adding to what they have already, and Boise State has announced that. Nick Saban will be a part of the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Of course, had the great run at LSU that launched him to the NFL, eventually to Alabama. He has been announced. Of course, Texas Sports Hall of Fame for us is just a mile away with huge names, and Nick Saban will be introduced and inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. There's a note for that, too.
Garrett, how do you feel about that? I mean, he should
I honestly hate it.
But it's weird, right?
No, it is, because, I mean, he won the national championship. He really kind of set the standard and the championship standard and expectations for LSU. But at the same time, he bolts to go to the NFL, and things really – I think they could have taken it to another level if he would have stayed. I understand this. I respect it. But me personally, as an LSU fan, I do not like it.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's
very weird. He left, married somebody else, had a way more kids.
Yeah, and then came back and
came back, and he's getting honored for it. It's odd. I mean, he should be. He absolutely should be. But I understand your feeling as an LSU fan being conflicted about it.
Wait a minute. Okay, the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, some of the names every year that are inducted have very little to do with the state of Texas other than they happen to play here or coach here. So that's what's happening here, right? But
Pretty
you just
much.
don't like it as an LSU fan.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, just because I don't like how things unfolded.
It's just weird,
like
right?
Dirk Nowitzki is in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, and others are in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame because they played pro sports in this state. And let's be honest, they sell a hell of a lot of tickets, too.
Yeah. Well, and look, this is probably going to sell a lot of tickets, but I would imagine LSU fans just feeling like Garrett does, where, yeah, I get that he should be in there. He set the standard, and they probably wouldn't have won their other two if he had not won that one and kind of showed them how to do it. But then it's not like if he went
he
to
violated you for over a decade.
If he went to Ohio State and won all those titles, they would be like, oh, great, fine, whatever, but since he went to Alabama and won them all, it's just like, oh, yeah, now I have to clap for this guy again? I had already divorced the idea of me liking him. Now I've got to bring him back. It's a weird feeling as a fan.
All right, good to get that perspective from an LSU fan. Go Tigers. Thank you, Garrett, still high off that baseball championship from, just a couple of days ago. When we come back, he is a part of an NBA championship team. Adam Flagler will join us. He will join us. Aaron Emery, was the parade today? I didn't see a lot of video of it. I didn't see a lot of. Okay, I bet you did. Yeah, you were probably locked in with a live feed somewhere. Adam Flagler also today. Ari Temkin will join us later on. We check in with BYU, with Utah, and more, and Colorado. Craig's off the radar. Paul's top five. Andrew Village polls. This is 365 Sports.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Right now at Berg Colgan Ford, we're bringing you an offer that's as big as America. Employee pricing for everyone. You pay what they pay. That means you drive home a new Ford F-150, Bronco Sport, Expedition, Super Duty. From America, for America. Employee pricing for everyone at BK Ford. Looking to sell your vehicle? Get top dollar for yours today. Don't miss out. Employee pricing is available for a limited time. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Experience better at BK Ford.
I'll never get used to this. Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
365 Sports as we take you up through till 6 o'clock today. We'll hear from Oklahoma City Thunder guard Adam Flagler in just a moment. And then also much more to get to when it comes to our guest today. Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports executive, will join us, and he will discuss what does all this mean in the big picture when it comes to the Pac-12 and CBS Sports, but also what does that mean for the Mountain West Conference? That's today. Jim Williams, one of your favorite guests, he will join us tomorrow on this show as well. Garrett Ross running the mothership, and then also today, Andrew Valade with the polls, Emery Winter working on every second of what we do during the show, putting things up for 365 Sports tonight. Garrett, anything?
Not yet.
Okay.
On it.
All right. We're working on Adam Flagler. All right. So he won the national title. He's won an NBA. Okay. We got him on. Adam Flagler of the Oklahoma City Thunder guard, former Baylor guard and national champion, joins us now after a pretty good day today, the celebration of the NBA title. Adam, thank you very much for joining us with Paul and Craig and David Smoak. Congratulations. What's it like to have this kind of feeling of being a part of an NBA champion?
It's been amazing. First, I want to say sick and embarrassed. Glad to be back. It's been a long time coming, but it was a dream come true. The parade was amazing, way past my imagination and expectation. And Oklahoma City came out supported like they've always been this whole year. So it was a dream come true.
Adam, the experience of March Madness and the NBA playoffs are very different. What would you say, though, are the biggest similarities between the two about the way that you feel as a player, preparing for it, going through it, and all of that?
Truthfully, at the end of the day, it's basketball,
Mm-hmm.
So the things within the lines that need to be prioritized are still the same. And I would say traveling, March Madness was, tougher because you have, those weekend games, and then you have 4 or 5 days, and then you would play like a Thursday, Saturday, or Friday, Sunday. Whereas, in the NBA and the playoffs, you get to at least be on the road for 4 to 5 days straight, playing those 2 games. So atmosphere, electric. Sadly, when we won it was around COVID. So we were looking at, just fake pictures and stuff in the crowd. But, it was still an amazing experience. I would never, ever change, anything about our experience at Baylor.
Adam, you've been around Oklahoma City now for a couple of years. Why this year? Why this team? Why was this the one to get it done in your estimation, just seeing all the ins and outs of everything?
I would say, I have to give credit for the, past Thunder players that, built this foundation. Sam Presti's done a great job of bringing in the right type of guys that are, willing to buy in and sacrifice. And, last year we felt like we came up short. It was the first time, that group was even, in the playoffs and experience and everything that came with it. So coming back this year, we knew that we were going to, have an edge, excitement. And we knew that once we got those trades in and guys, took advantage of this past summer and got better, that we're going to be off and running. And once we really got to the playoffs for the first round and moving forward, we were prepared. We've been thinking about it really ever since the season started. So,
is there any difference in winning a national title in college basketball compared to a world championship in the pros?
I would say, for me as a kid, I always dreamed of being a part of March Madness. That's really all I watched a lot growing up. North Carolinas and the Kansases and all that growing up. So I thought winning a national championship was more attainable, but when I got to the NBA and was around this organization and on this team, I was like, this is really possible. And when it happened, I'm still at all, thinking about it. But being the best team at that time in the world, you can't take that away. You can't take that away. And all of us put in the work to get to that point.
You guys were extremely confident throughout the regular season, had that great regular season of playoffs. Was your confidence built before the regular season, or did the regular season allow you to come through and have to go to game 6s and 7s like you did, where it didn't seem after you had some bad games that you weren't flapped at all? It was just, all right, that one's over. There's one on Thursday night. Let's go.
For one, this was a special group. The guys that we had on this team, were resilient. We're dogs. Our coach calls us bad MFs. So I would just say throughout the whole season, we learned from really our success. We were able to have that record throughout the regular season, win the most games and be as dominant as we were. And we had to really learn through success. And sometimes that's hard, but we had a team that was disciplined enough and really willing to, push one another to get to this point. But it really all started during the summer when we, made those trades and we started doing pickup and really just getting to interact with each other outside of basketball and spend time. And once we started on the right foot there, it allowed us a runway to get to where we were today. So.
You're no stranger to the state of Oklahoma. Played there, plenty, but being there as part of the home NBA team, what's the basketball fandom and culture like there? It seems amazing. You mentioned the parade and how much fun and all that was, but can you speak to a fandom that has nothing but the Thunder in college sports and just how that comes out in droves for you guys?
Best fans in the NBA by far. They have been amazing all season. Obviously, I wasn't here, 5 years ago, but some of my teammates talked about how when there was 24 wins in a season for those guys, the fans were still there and were super supportive. So it just really meant a lot to be able to bring a championship, the first one to the organization, back to Oklahoma. And, they showed up like they've always done this whole season at this parade today. And, I'm a little winded and tired from all the excitement and just running around and having fun with those fans. So.
Yeah, you had a parade when you won the national title.
Right.
It was right there near downtown in Waco, not far from the campus. Obviously, this is an NBA championship. It's a world championship. Right. Does today and then following winning it all on Sunday night, just like you will have to lay down and take the largest power nap of all time?
Yeah, indeed. I haven't really been sleeping really since we won. All of us as a team have been going out and just having fun and spending a lot of time together. And, I think it's just the beginning, to be honest. They want to do something the whole week. So I don't know if I have all the energy for that. But, yeah, it was amazing, the parade. I credit just the fans and the whole state for coming out. The mayor shut so many things down for us to be able to have this moment. And truly, it was one of the best days, that I've had. So, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Emory Winter is our local Thunder fan here in the studio, also a Baylor alum. So the two greatest moments of his life, Adam, you are a part of as a Baylor Bear and a player for the Thunder. He wanted me to ask you about Aaron Wiggins and how he kind of took over the room today at the parade.
Aaron is a man of many talents. He's a special type of person, and I'm thankful for him personally because when I first got here, he was somebody that I could really lean on, and he was kind of like a vet to me, even though he's not that much older than me. But yeah, we were hyping him up while he was on stage talking, and then when he got the crowd involved, we were like, no more. Nobody else needs to talk. That was cinematic what we just saw. So I'm glad you talked about Wiggs because he is one of one, and I'm glad we got him with this team.
The chemistry of the team, youth, some veteran leadership, and guys that, like you said, that were Presti put this team together very, very well. Was there any drama at all when you win 16, 8 or 9 games and then you roll right into the championship and win it? Was there ever anything where you guys had to kind of overcome adversity?
The most drama we might have had was we played cards on the plane rides to the games. These guys are, very receptive, when they need to be better. And, anybody on the team, top to bottom, can speak their mind, especially if everybody has intent, for all of us to be better. So, no, there was never really any drama at all. There were times where guys got competitive, but we all knew it was from a good place. And, when you have those abilities to be able to be open and willing to be, critiqued, especially somebody like Shea, if I wanted to say something, I saw something maybe that he couldn't see at the moment, man, it was like he was gravitating towards those type of conversations because he just wants to be the best version of himself. So.
I got to ask you a question. You mentioned how you were known as, I think you said tough MF, whatever it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
That obviously was something that you never heard at Baylor from Scott Drew, correct?
I never.
King McClure told me that he said the S word one time, and it was because he was like just pushed to the brink about a practice. I can't imagine a practice going so bad he would even get past that one. It probably took everything in him to do that.
I only really have one experience, and I mean it was definitely warranted. We were on the road and we were just playing horrible, energy wise, execution. We just weren't looking like ourselves. And he came into the locker room and it was so funny because when he did curse, everybody looked like it doesn't even sound right coming out of your mouth right now. We know you don't cuss, but we knew he was serious and we knew we needed to get on point. But it's definitely I wouldn't say Coach Dagnall curses a lot, but you go from really 0 to 100 at that point because Coach Drew never cursed.
Well, you've won a national title and an NBA title, and you're young, and you have your career ahead of you, and you had an opportunity to be a part of it. I can't even imagine what that was like. Kenrich Williams, who played at University High School in Waco, then he played at TCU, and Kenrich, he ended up being like one of the veterans of that team. What kind of year do you think, and how part of that glue that helped this team do what they did?
Man, there's 3 people that we consider the true glues, the team as well as the organization. And it was Kenrich, Shea, and Lou. Those guys were here 5 years ago when the team was winning 18, 16 games and was being critiqued about possibly trying to tank on purpose. So to see them being able to reap the reward of just the consistency and the work and discipline that they had just in those moments to get to this point now, I just can't be more happy for them. And me and K Rich were really locked in, especially once he knew that I was coming to OKC. We spent some time throughout my college career. He would come back and play pickup and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So once we became teammates, we kind of let that rivalry go away from TCU and Baylor. We let it go. We squashed it. He knows at the end of the day, what it is, but I try not to bring it up now that we're both champs.
You mentioned Lou Dort, and I was just about to ask you about him. He might be my favorite player to watch on your team because he is like, you kind of forget about him for a second, and then all of a sudden, for 5 minutes, he's ruined the other team's game.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see him. His work ethic has to be second to none.
Yeah. Nobody deserves more recognition, credit than Lou. And I'm super happy that he was able to get first team all defense because, I mean, he's been doing this for a minute now. You know, he's been very disruptive, and obviously he's been able to do it this year at the biggest stage possible. So I'm glad you brought up Lou because, man, we got some incredible guys. But, you know, everybody was rallying behind Lou, and he's really the engine that, you know, makes us go on the defense end. And that's why you see the most, you know, dominant defensive team that there's been in a long time.
Adam, have you ever eaten at Mickey Mantle's Steakhouse in OKC?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you got to do that. We used to cover like the regional tournament was there, women's basketball with it, and it's just an incredible steakhouse. If you like steak, but they have other things too. But it's an old-fashioned type setup. It almost looks like you're going into a place in Chicago that would have been on The Sopranos.
Oh,
but
nice. Okay.
It's an incredible place. It's not that far away, in fact, from the arena and or the ballpark, the minor league ballpark, and also much more. Great to have you on. I didn't know if you'd be able to respond because so much going on, whirlwind. Congratulations, man, and we're proud of you and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Adam Flagler, Oklahoma City Thunder guard, Baylor national champion with us on 365 Sports. We're now joined by
Still waiting on him.
Oh, okay. You want to break? Let's break. Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn Radio, next on 365 Sports. The Baylor alumni fan engagement had a conversation, in fact, yesterday with Doug Furch as they are set up to do what they have coming up for football season. But even before that, they've got some events coming up this summer, including the Texas Tour of Coaches throughout the state, from Houston and San Antonio, also even out in West Texas and up in the Dallas and Fort Worth area. And usually during the same time that there's the Big 12 Media Days, which is July 8th and 9th, they'll have a speaking engagement with Dave Aranda and other particular coaches throughout the rest of the summer. And when they do play at SMU earlier in the year, which should be one hell of a non-conference game, they will have a tailgate set up for the donors, alums, and much more at the George Bush Library. That's available on campus right across and not far away from where SMU plays their games. If you want to stay in touch, go to Baylor.edu, Google Doug Furch or Paul Thorpe, the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We will have Ari Temkin join us momentarily from the Big 12 Radio on TuneIn Radio, joining us also later in the show, as I mentioned, because he's always been a great guest during all those summers of realignment and more. Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports executive, will join us today in the 5 o'clock hour. Andrew Villay's already put up one poll. He will have another one later on, and we'll have the results after Paul's Top 5 joining us later in the show. Also, I thought it'd be a good time to check with a couple of programs that we haven't really discussed much of late. Mitch Harper covers Utah. Brian Howell covers Colorado. It has been a crazy quiet offseason for Colorado ever since they had the Hall of Fame induction. And then it seemed like, we showed the turf yesterday going to the turf. There really hasn't been a lot about Colorado. Deion's help was up there for a moment or two as well.
That's probably why, because the media, he's in Dallas right now, or Prosper, and he's not in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
So he's coalescing there as opposed to being there in Boulder. So yeah, I think that's probably why we haven't heard as much, because everything Deion says, whether it's worth it or not, becomes somehow buzzworthy. Nobody bats 1,000, but Deion seems to, because he's such a lightning rod. People want to comment on what he says, even if it's pretty innocuous.
If in fact, Ari Temkin joins us, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. Of course, you could listen to them, and he's on with us quite a bit, and a lot of us are on with him too, and the show that he does. Ari, thank you very much. You hear about who would be the picks in the Big 12. We're going to have the media poll come out, all of this, power polls, efficiency. Really, is there any conference in America where you could take, you could take a body part and guarantee these two teams make the college football playoff, even if you look at the SEC or the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think before the season, we have a pretty good sense of which SEC and Big Ten representatives are going to be there, right? There's going to be exceptions. Indiana came out of nowhere last year, so you've got to, at least have that as an option. But it's almost to a point, take the exercise of I can tell you who the top 5 in the preseason poll will be for 2026, not 25 preseason poll, the 26 preseason poll. Probably some semblance of Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Michigan, right? That's basically, we can name the top 10 seemingly in the AP preseason poll for 2026, 2027 until further notice. So I think that's what makes the Big 12 unique. I think one of the things that for the growth of this conference and for a perception, that we need to see some sort of stability and sustainability at the top of the conference. But so far that's been elusive. We've had a ton of different teams represent the conference in the conference championship game. We've had a ton of different teams represent the conference as champions. And, in this new world, it's exciting. It's fun. It's viewed that way as a conference. I think when you hear other publications talking about the Big 12, isn't that a fun conference? Anybody can beat anybody. There's so much parity. But I do think that hurts the perception of the league.
Ari, do you think that
I think that's what he was asking, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Ari, do you think that
also, is that a Mizzou towel behind you?
I thought Jack was going to take. It's a scarf. A friend of mine gave me years ago, and it wound up.
Your wife won't let you bring that into the house. I'm sure.
That's why it's here. That's why it's here. She came in and she was going through my closet, and she says, "That can't live here." And I said, "Oh, no problem. I'll take it to the studio." I'm glad I had another place for it to go.
And now here I am calling you out for it here.
Yeah. No, I Yeah, it's like a scarf, a soccer scarf, So the person who gave this to me was a priest, so I decided not to throw it away.
Okay.
So
Yeah. All right. Well, now I won't say anything else. So
yeah. But Ari, is there a team? Who's the most slept on team in the Big 12 this offseason?
It's Baylor. Yeah. I mean, I think most of the preseason hype is around Texas Tech and Arizona State. You'll get a little bit around K-State, which is surprising. I haven't heard very much at all about Baylor. I don't know that anybody knows that Baylor was the hottest team in college football last year at the end of the year. I was there in McLean when Baylor laid the wood to my Jayhawks, and those were the two hottest teams in college football at that point in time. And Kansas had won 3 straight games against top 25 opponents. It was the first time a team under 500 had beaten 3 consecutive AP top 25 teams in a row. And so they were hot too. And Baylor just absolutely destroyed them. So, to me, that speaks to how good they were at that point in time. They are a meat and potatoes kind of team, right? Like a slug you in the mouth sort of team on offense and defense. And, I think the growth of Sawyer Robertson over the course of the year. I mean, a year ago, we thought Daquan Finn was the Baylor starter.
Mm-hmm.
And, that blew up in smoke. So I don't see Sawyer Robertson's name mentioned on many of these preseason, Heisman candidates. I don't see Sawyer Robertson's name mentioned in many of the lists ranking top players in the country. I think he's the most underrated player in the country. I think Baylor's the most underrated team right now in the country. And it's funny because I thought Utah was fairly underrated, and now I feel like they're being overrated. I feel like Utah is one of the more overhyped teams right now in the preseason.
Ari, massive news today in Provo. Ryder Lyons, 5-star quarterback, commits to Kalani Sitake and the Cougars. He won't see the field for a couple years because of his mission, but from announcing on the Pat McAfee show to people who cover college football who I don't think they even know how to spell Big 12 unless there's something huge happening. They're all over this story and all over BYU and this big quarterback and the big spending and all of that. Huge day for the Cougars, obviously, but can you break down in your own way how huge you think this is, this commitment of Ryder Lyons?
Yeah, you cannot underplay how big and impactful it was. I mean, we tried to look through, and I don't know if you guys can off the top of your head too, can we think of any 5-star quarterbacks that signed with Big 12 schools that were not Texas and Oklahoma?
No, I mean, there's Keshawn Henderson who's committed to Houston right now, but I mean, whether he signs or not, I don't know.
Right. No, so I mean, just going back historically, and for the Big 12 to have 2 guys, I mean, they have 2 of the top 5, quarterbacks right now. I mean, that's incredible when you consider the history of this conference in terms of recruiting. And, it's funny because I think a lot of us thought, what will Texas OU do for recruiting in this conference? And maybe the expectation was that it was going to hurt recruiting because, you've got Texas and Oklahoma in the conference that could help other teams recruit. But it feels like a few years later now that it actually hurt other teams recruiting, that they were so galvanizing and that they were basically the sun zapping all of the energy from everybody else. And now as we see it, the conference is spreading its wings and winning and recruiting at a very high level. I mean, Texas Tech in softball, Arizona in baseball, just go down the line in terms of, man, how are sports going to be able to pick up the pieces here without Texas and OU and how much they meant for this conference? And I think, again, it's almost like those 2 programs were hurting the conference overall for a bunch of reasons. And maybe the competition standpoint, we didn't even realize how much they hurt the conference. But yeah, I mean, to have 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks and one of them going to Houston. And by the way, I mean, I think he's going to sign there, even though, we'll see what happens up until signing day. But this is a guy that is currently playing for Michael Bishop, amazingly, who played at Blinn College for Willie Fritz. I mean, it's just incredible how, things come around like that. But Henderson, playing for the legendary Big 12 quarterback, Michael Bishop right now in Houston, and then having Willie Fritz recruit him. And by the way, Willie Fritz recruited him for a long time and never told him that he coached Michael Bishop at Blinn Junior College. It only said it after, and it was Bishop that said it after he'd committed to Houston already. So he sort of held that as a trump card throughout this process. So yeah, I mean, again, I don't think you can underplay how big of a deal it was. We've seen 4-star quarterbacks sign all over this conference, but to have 2 of these guys, including Ryder Lyons, these guys have been sought after by every school in the country. So adding big time talent. I mean, Keyshawn Henderson could be a huge trendsetter for Willie Fritz in Houston moving forward. If he has success year one, I'm assuming he'll start from day one. And if he does, the amount that could help in recruiting, and same with Lions. I think I've said this for the last year and a half. The Big 12 is so lucky that BYU was still available to add to the conference. They were a sleeping giant. We're starting to see it. I mean, when BYU and Baylor played in basketball this year, and it was Yegor Demon and VJ Edgecombe, and it was all these NBA scouts were in attendance, and it was such an incredible building. I mean, I think that shows at its best what BYU can be for this conference. Huge ticket every night in basketball. Obviously from a football perspective, they've had, extremely successful program. You could argue that they have historically the greatest coach in terms of influence the sport has ever seen, as his influence is still being felt through Andy Reid and many other coaches that are so influential across the sport. Mike Leach, Andy Reid, to name a few. Obviously Leach's influence is still widespread. So, I mean, you think about just the history of BYU and the fact that they've got such incredible, fandom across the country, huge following, a sleeping giant that the Big 12 was very, very lucky to be able to add.
Who or what is more important to take a program to another level? A 5-star quarterback who lives up to those expectations, or the head coach who you hire?
It's a great question. I think the coach, but I don't want to downplay what a 5-star can do, especially again if they live up to it, because we've seen the effect that has on recruiting. But to me, the coach has a longer shelf life. When you said that, Smokey, I was thinking the first picture I had was Kenny Dillingham, right? So what he's done in a short period of time. Now let's see it be consistent before we crown him this, the next Mike Gundy or Kyle Whittingham. But I think you've already seen the success that they can have. Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson are getting a ton of hype in terms of if they live up to what they did last year, look at 2 first-round picks and maybe even a top 10 pick. So then how does Dillingham leverage that into future recruiting? I don't want to downplay what a 5-star who lives up to the hype can do, especially at the quarterback position. But I mean, let's just say Keyshawn Henderson comes in, he starts year one. So that would be next season. Then that helps to bring in more recruiting. Is he then gone the following year? And then what does that mean? Maybe that starts to a cycle and it helps Willie Fritz. I'm trying to talk my way through both of these. I mean, I feel like coaching just because there seems to be more longevity there, but we've seen that Willie Fritz, one stroke of genius with the Keyshawn Henderson piece, and suddenly his recruiting takes off and it goes because there's a proof there that, he can recruit and develop. So I guess my final answer is coaching, but I'm open-minded to it.
Yeah, I just one of those that I started thinking about it when you were talking about all the 2 5-stars and some of the other ones that people think were 5-stars, they weren't. Doesn't matter. They still ended up being great quarterbacks.
Jared Stidham was the one I looked up, but his highest ranking was 33 overall. So he was just a very high 4-star in that. But yeah, outside of that, this has kind of been everybody else has the little engine that could when it comes to quarterbacks and quarterback development. And I say that just because, the 4-star is nothing to sneeze at, but yeah, this is something else. And with Keyshawn Henderson, it's wild because he's canceled several visits the week of and said, I'm going back to Houston. My recruitment's essentially shut down. And Houston, hasn't really had this since Ed Oliver.
Right. Well, and to have it at the quarterback position. And for a guy, the parallels with Michael Bishop are stunning. This was a guy that was sort of off the radar a year ago. He was being recruited, but not at quarterback. And now many of those programs that offered him, Texas being one of them, are coming around to the idea of him at quarterback. But even when he started to shoot up the rankings, there were still a lot of coaches that were projecting him at wide receiver at other positions. And, and he's maintained throughout that he thinks he's a quarterback. Willie Fritz has maintained throughout that he's a quarterback and will be a quarterback for them. And he's the number 1 ranked quarterback in the class, right? The number 3 overall recruit. So it's wild to think that a guy that was recruited as a wide receiver would be the number 1 quarterback in the class, but here we are. And yeah, look, as we know, you can get bogged down in recruiting rankings. There are plenty of guys that far exceed their recruiting ranking potential, like 3 stars that turn into first-round picks. just off the top of my head, I don't remember what Jalen Petrie was, but I don't think he was much higher than a 3-star recruit. And look what he's become. But I think in the aggregate, the majority of the guys that are 4 or 5 stars are going to become NFL players. And that's been a struggle for the Big 12 overall. I mean, the blue chip ratio, which, Bud Elliott, the basically over a 4-year recruiting cycle, you have to have 50% of your players be 4 or 5-star recruits. Every team in the modern era that's won a national championship has been over that threshold. And only 3 programs have even played for the title in that stretch without being at 50%. The most recent was TCU. Colorado had been in the first 2 years close to that threshold, but needed 2 more years in order to get there. So Big 12 programs aren't even really close to that threshold. So I think this year is huge in terms of what if Texas Tech were to win? Let's just say something crazy, like Texas Tech goes and wins a national championship this year. It would be how, I guess. And the other question to this is, how far do they have to go to prove that you could build a championship level roster the way that they're building it? Because every other champion in modern college football history is built through high school recruiting and developing. And obviously, and I don't know that you can win a title with the way that Texas Tech built, but they probably have the most talented roster in the Big 12, and it may not even be close because of the players they've added to the portal and the amount of money that they've spent. So
go ahead.
No, so it's just I do, and I know we've talked a ton about this, but I do reserve the right to understand that the future of this could change in terms of what roster building looks like in order to build championship contenders. But it's still really impactful to build through high school recruiting, and until further notice, it's the way to build a national championship contender. And again, I mean, Arizona State wasn't there, and they were overtime away from beating Texas, and we're right there in every part of it. So is it the 4 or 5 stars that put Texas over the edge? No, but to win continually, that's what the secret sauce apparently is.
All right, great stuff, Betty. We'll see you in a couple of weeks in Frisco. We'll see you there.
One day I'll be on time, gents. Sorry about that.
There we go.
Take care. See you guys soon.
That's okay. We had an NBA champion on with Adam Flagler. Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. Mitch Harper covers BYU. Garrett, he's up. Okay, we'll go straight to Mitch Harper. He covers BYU. Mitch, thanks for your time. We opened up the show today with, of course, the great story about a 5-star quarterback committing to BYU. What has that meant to, and it's going to be down the road, but the fact they got him in the commitment, what does that mean to BYU faithful?
It's a big deal, Smoak. And I think it's a commitment that, it's a little bit of an old school recruiting a pitch where BYU recruited Ryder Lyons since he was an 8th grader. And this was a long multi-year process to land Ryder Lyons. And now BYU has its quarterback of the future that they're going to really build this program around. And they believe it could be the type of prospect that, can have a domino effect to where future LDS prospects or maybe prospects in the region look at BYU in a different light and say, why not go to BYU? Because in the past, when they were an independent, they weren't in the conversation for guys like Ryder Lyons.
That is interesting that you bring that up, because I was going to ask you about it. Because if you were not able to win a national title, even though you may want to go and follow a school of your faith, you may be like, well, it doesn't mean I'm not LDS. It just means I'm not going there. He's a magnet. Like every 5-star is a magnet recruiting wise, but this opens up a whole new door, doesn't it?
It does. And, he's like a new media prospect where he's got a massive TikTok following. He's got a huge Instagram following. I mean, he's got the aura, as the kids say, and he's going to bring an aura, to BYU's recruiting trail where prospects are going to want to line up with him. A guy like Tawi Akana, 3-star wide receiver from Orem High. He's had some recent offers from Alabama, Arkansas. He's going to be someone to monitor in this cycle. He played on Overtime Elite with Ryder Lyons, and they were on the same official visit this past weekend. BYU, has got a lot of momentum right now as an athletic department too. And, when I was at the Big 12 meetings in Orlando a few weeks back, I was talking with BYU's AD, Brian Santiago, and he's just recently got hired last month. And he just really looks at the Big 12 as a platform that springboarded BYU into the big time. Whereas maybe, other programs have looked at the Big 12 or just the national narrative around this league is like, oh, it's second rate. BYU has looked at it as a launching pad to reach heights that they never before have reached. And this is another example of that, because Ryder Lyons a few years ago doesn't consider BYU. And then you factor in the NIL piece that you got to be competitive there. BYU's got a track record of pumping out NFL quarterbacks with Zach Wilson and Jaron Hall. There's a lot of momentum, and they kind of had this perfect storm. And then the recent on-field success, they feel like they can take it to greater heights. And again, it's just another example of that by getting Ryder Lyons over Oregon and USC and really the who's who in college football.
Mitch, the money piece in the NIL gets brought up a lot nowadays, and people can get weirdly defensive about it. It's like, it is what it is, but that would come into play for any five-star, but he does have a background with BYU as well, right? I mean, he's got some firmly entrenched roots there with the Cougars. So can you kind of speak to that, his father, and just sort of the he's Mormon? I mean, there's a lot of pull outside of just the money when people look on the outside surface of this story.
No question. And, his father was a walk-on defensive back on the BYU football team that went to the Cotton Bowl in 1996, and he's got sisters that have graduated from BYU. Strong family ties, and he's a kid that's really grounded in his faith with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He plans to serve a mission before he enrolls at BYU. His older brother, Walker Lyons, was a top prospect that BYU pursued. He ended up going to USC in the 2023 cycle, but he served a mission. So it's a family that is faith-based, and, BYU, made that a focus. Kalani Sitake, he doesn't, when it comes to this recruitment, he's got his general manager, Dave George, who they hired last year. He's kind of the point person when it comes to the financials. Kalani focuses a lot on culture, and you guys have probably talked to him a lot, and that he talks about love and learning, his culture, and he really pushes that when it comes to recruits. When he gets in there, gets these guys in his office and has that conversation to, kind of close the deal, but it's a big focus for that. So Ryder Lyons has been a guy that's been aware of BYU for a long time, and BYU has made him their number one prospect, the number one prospects for the 2026 cycle for years. And this has been a recruitment that for a long time, I think a lot of national, analysts kind of looked at BYU as just an afterthought, but, he'd show up to these unofficial visits, see him on the sidelines, see him in all these games. And I don't think people nationally, some people did, but there wasn't many that realized that BYU was a real player here for Ryder Lyons. And of course, they get across the finish line and land him.
So Gatorade Player of the Year, 3,000 plus passing yards. He's a dual threat guy. What can you tell us about his game outside of those kind of general, descriptors?
Well, BYU loves having quarterbacks that can stretch the field. And, Kalani Sitake, he's got a background as a defensive coordinator, but he loves the offensive side. I mean, when he was the last time BYU signed a five-star quarterback was in the 2002 cycle, and Kalani Sitake, oddly enough, was coaching the quarterbacks as an assistant analyst on that staff with Ben Olsen back in the day. Kalani loves, he wants BYU to have a high-powered offense, and Ryder Lyons fits that to a T. They love to stretch the field. BYU wants to have the big playmaking ability through the air, and Ryder Lyons throws an effortless ball. I think the most underrated aspect to him is that he is a big-time competitor. He's a goal-driven kid. He is highly competitive, and he's going to have the weight of the world on his shoulders when he arrives at BYU to be the face of the program. I mean, BYU has a tendency to kind of celebritize its athletes. It's a big deal out here where BYU football is a massive draw, and I think people, that become big-time players at BYU, they become celebrities. So he's going to have a lot of eyeballs on him, conducting himself as a leader. He's got kind of that quality to do that. That's what he's been known for at Folsom High School, and a real strong competitor as well. But his running ability is top shelf. I mean, over 1,200 yards in the past two seasons as a starter on the ground, and just highly productive. And he's around, one of the most talented California high school teams at Folsom in that state. So he's got great personnel around him, but he's elevated them, and he is the best player coming out of the state of California. And he feels like a perfect fit for BYU scheme with what Aaron Roderick has had success with, like Zach Wilson. He's so much like Zach, and he's farther ahead than Zach was as a high school prospect.
So because of that, do you expect him, and I remember talking to the Barrington brothers about the mission and how it affects you, at least fitness-wise. You can be working out all you want, but you're not anywhere near facilities that are like what you're going to be at in most cases. So because he's advanced now, does that mean he can maybe hit the ground running more after his mission in 2 years? Or, I mean, obviously they'll have a backup plan for that, but is that maybe better than most guys who would probably even still have to wait a year to get back in the rhythm of things?
Yeah, it's a good question because a lot of it's predicated on the timing of when they arrive back from the mission. If they're a player that, say, arrives in spring or summer, most likely they're not going to have enough time to recover and get their body ready to play Power 4 football. So typically you see a lot of Latter-day Saint missionaries come back that they're going to be playing at BYU. Typically they come back in November, December. They enroll in the school in January, and then they've got a lot of time to get ready for an upcoming season. And that's the expectation would be when Ryder Lyons would matriculate into the program would be in a January window. So he's got a full winter conditioning, all the phases in an off season to get ready for a given year. So that's, typically kind of the blueprint. There's not a specific roadmap for these return missionaries because you're right. I mean, it can change guys physically. You bring up the Barrington brothers. I think Clark lost 70 pounds when he was on his mission, and he had to completely overhaul his body. It took a full year and a half to really get back to a level physically where he could be playing in the trenches on that offensive line for BYU. So it'll take time. And it always, there's a cliche term of missionary wall when it comes to guys that come back from a mission at some point in their recovery or getting back to what they used to be pre-mission. They just there's some ups and downs in the process, but BYU has a track record of working with those athletes, a higher volume than really any other program in the country. They embrace the missionary program. They want their athletes, if they want to serve a mission, they embrace that fully. It's part of the fabric of the school, and they believe, tied to the success of the school. So it should be a positive, but it is definitely an underrated aspect that it's difficult physically for guys to just assume they'll be back to their normal selves. It takes some time when they come back from the mission.
Mitch, there's obviously the 800-pound gorilla as far as the story about Jake Retzloff and what's happening there, which is right now it's just kind of quiet. How much does that seep into what everyone thinks when they look at BYU this year?
It has to play a huge role because, the quarterback position is so critical. And as we know from year one in the 16-team Big 12, you've got to have probably one of the top quarterbacks in the country to win this league. And Aaron Roderick, BYU's offensive coordinator, at the end of last season viewed Jake Retzloff being potentially a top 5 quarterback nationally from his viewpoint inside that building. So you don't have a backup right now if you're BYU that comes close to that level of trust for the upcoming season. BYU can win games this year still because they're going to have a really good defense, but the quarterback spot, there is a drop-off if Jake Retzloff is for some reason unavailable as this continues to go on with the civil lawsuit of sexual assault that was filed back in May. So, yesterday there was a BYU football media day event for the local media out here, and, there was no new update. It's still kind of being viewed by BYU as the private matter. They referenced the initial statement that the school issued out back on May 21st, and it's still kind of up in the air. And it's interesting because 2 weeks from now, it's going to be Big 12 Media Day in Frisco. And, BYU's got, an intriguing team, but I think everyone, myself included, is going to want some clarity about what's going to be going on at that quarterback situation and what Jake's status is going to be. So it is a huge question. And, some of the top contenders for that spot are going to be McKay Hillstead, a former Utah State transfer who's got a full year in the program. And then Bear Bachmeyer, a Stanford transfer who joined the program in the spring portal window. He's on campus now. So those would be some of the top 2 guys, if Jake is unavailable, that I would look to, that BYU probably will be, getting a chance to contend for that starting job this fall.
So the Big 12 with Arizona State winning it all. BYU, of course, smoked Colorado. There were successes in the bowl during the bowl season, and there were some disappointments as well. Where is BYU on the meter of top tier, maybe next level on teams that should be able to follow up what they were able to do last year, if not get better?
I think they're on that next level. Without Jake, if Jake Retzloff's unavailable, I think that recalibrates expectations for BYU. Jake wasn't a perfect quarterback by any stretch. I mean, they still won 11 games, despite sometimes Jake not being perfect. So they've shown that they can win without flawless QB play, but Jake, again, just has some playmaking ability, and his ability, 2-minute drill, he was excellent in those spots, and he really capitalized when getting short fields. So I think BYU's kind of in that next grouping. I think when that preseason poll comes out in a few weeks, I'd say BYU's maybe 5th or 6th, somewhere in there. But they've got the ceiling, unlike the first 2 years in the Big 12, where you feel like they could finish as a top 15 team going into a year. Whereas, last year was kind of unexpected. No one saw 11-2 coming for BYU. They shocked everyone. And whereas this year, the depth, how they attack the transfer portal, very selective, but a lot of those portal additions, including the ones in spring, are going to be looked upon to have an immediate impact. And you pair that up with a good core of returning lettermen from a year ago, it should be a really good football team. But again, you've got to clear up that quarterback position, because it just feels like everything is tethered to that spot, at least as far as how high can BYU get in this league, and can they get to Arlington coming up in December?
There we go. Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate your time. We'll see you in Frisco.
I will be there.
All right,
we'll see you
in Frisco. Come on by, say hi. We'll say hi to you if we see you. Mitch Harper from KSL covers BYU. What a day it was for BYU football. Think about that. They had the number 1 basketball recruit and one of the top players in the class of 2026 today with Ryder Lyons. When we come back, he covers Colorado. We mentioned earlier, they've been kind of under the radar. When I saw that picture of Folsom Field and the changes, I reached out to Brian Howe. I said, what are the changes? Because I didn't see much as far as the structure of the stadium. He said that's turf now as they went away from grass. We'll discuss that with him and more. This is 365 Sports. Don Chumador and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco. 48-foot walk-in humidor with all of the great brands of cigars from around the entire world. Cohiba, Padron, Macanudo, Monte Cristo, Arturo Fuente, Rocky Patel, Romeo and Julieta, and I could go on and on. And when you walk through, there's 2 different doors. It's that big. To the right-hand side, there's a wall, kind of a casing area where you have cigars from those who are veterans who have cigar companies and or cigar companies from the state of Texas. They have other things, CBD, THC, which is still pretty good, and you can do that in Texas for now and maybe into the future even longer. Plus, they have fresh coffee beans. You can ground them up or have them do that right there in front of you. Even pipes, the old-fashioned way. Don Chumador and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget, from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
I read a story today in theathletic.com. Scott Dockerman has been on this show many times, covers the Big Ten, covers Iowa as well. Kirk Ferentz's take on colleges. New era may surprise you ahead of his 27th year at Iowa. He loves what's going on. A guy that you would think is all strict and disciplined. That doesn't mean he's not strict and disciplined, but, like, my God, he's enjoying the madness, which is the complete opposite of what I thought you would hear from Kirk Ferentz, Iowa's football coach.
Yeah, I thought you'd hear this is dumb and these damn kids. And
in some crazy way, I enjoy all of the crazy stuff that's going on the last couple of years here with our game and the landscape and all of that. It's almost like a challenge in some ways. And then the single best part, just people you work with, and that hasn't changed. So there we are. And that's in theathletic.com from Scott Dockerman, joined now by Brian Howe, covers Colorado for the Boulder Daily Camera. He's here with us on 365 Sports. Brian, it's been kind of quiet out of Boulder. I had the picture of the turf yesterday. I reached out to you and said, okay, what is the difference? And you told me, is that because Deion's been kind of out of pocket as he tries to get himself healthy or something else?
Yeah, I think that's part of it, but I think it's also just, the time of year that it is. I mean, there's not a ton going on with the Buffs right now, and their roster actually seems a little more settled this time of year than it has been the last 2 years at this time. So I think that's a big part of it. And but yeah, Coach Prime has not been around for a while. He's been down at his home in Texas as he tries to get healthy, and nobody really knows what's going on with him. But I'm sure part of it is him not being around. But yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty normal this time of year for them.
Brian, along the offensive line, I mean, they had the big loss at center, obviously, but they brought in a guard, tackle, another center. Do you think that position with Jordan Seaton as the anchor will improve enough? Because as good as Caden Salter and Juju Lewis might be, I don't know if they can quite be as magical without a running game as Shedeur was.
Yeah, I think it's better. We thought so last year, and they were slightly better last year than the year before. I think this is a better group than last year. I don't think it's going to be, one of the top offensive lines in the Big 12 or anything like that, but I think it's better. I mean, they brought in some guys that, are experienced and, have got experience at high levels. I mean, Zy Chrysler has started at Illinois the last couple of years, and Xavier Hill was an all-conference guard at Memphis this last year. So I think they've got some guys guys that are pretty solid. Zarian McGill, even though it's been in a group of 5 level, he's been a 3-year starter at center. So I think they got some quality players that should help out. I mean, you're right that they're not going to be as magical, maybe make up for some things like Shador. I will say though, if it's Caden Salter, there's probably more of that. There definitely is more of that running element that he brings than Shador, and so maybe he helps that running game a little more than Shador would have.
Brian, just what's it like? I guess it's a small sample size of only just a few months at this point because all of the draft coverage and everything, but does it feel like there's a drastically different year and just kind of feel upon Colorado football with the lack of the Sanders boys, even though, obviously the head coach is the same and all that? It just feels like that was the start of a very certain era there for Colorado, and that's going to be some big faces now missing, Travis Hunter included.
Yeah, I don't feel like we've had a chance to miss them yet because so much of the offseason has been about them because of the draft and things like that. I think it's gonna feel weird. Maybe when we get to Big 12 Media Day in a couple of weeks in Dallas, when there's no Travis or Shador. Well, Travis is never gone, but there's no Shador or things like that. That's gonna be weird. When we get into fall camp, it'll be weird. And when you watch the well-off media videos and not seeing Shador and Shiloh and Travis being such a big part of those videos, that's kind of weird. So it's definitely going to have a different feel.
Well, they have stars, but we just don't know yet who they are. You mentioned Seaton, the offensive lineman, right? The way they play, the style they play, depending on the quarterback play. Who will some of them be outside the quarterbacks if that works out?
Yeah, it's interesting. Some colleagues we've talked about, well, who's the face of this team now? And like, well, is it your left tackle? That's kind of a weird face of the team. Or, is it Juju Lewis, who may even be the backup quarterback this year? So those might be the big faces. The stars, I think, remain to be seen. I think there's some good talent on here that just has not proven it yet. And, I think a Draylon Miller is a really good receiver. I think he's going to be a stud. And, if he's not an all-conference guy this year, I think next year he will be. We've talked a lot about him as their Deebo Samuel type because he can play out of the backfield. He's a receiver. He actually made 2 starts at running back last year. Omarion Miller is a stud if he can stay healthy. He had a big game against Kansas State. No, it was Baylor last year. Had the big game against Baylor. If you remember that touchdown he had before the half where he looked like he was going to get tackled, stayed up and then went 50 yards for a touchdown. But then he got injured a couple weeks later and missed the rest of the year. So they have some star potential players. Like you said, we just don't know who they're going to be yet. I think DJ McKinney on defense, I think is one. I think he's going to be a really good corner.
I think the reason why some people don't remember the play before the half is because the way that game went into overtime. That's still the dominant thought of that game.
Yeah, I'm not sure many people remember much beyond the last play of regulation and overtime. That was quite a game last year. But, that play with Omarion Miller was a huge one that a lot of people forget. But that was as big as any play because I think Baylor was kind of rolling at that time. And that touchdown by Omarion Miller, really kind of, stemmed the tide a little bit and gave the Buffs a little momentum going into halftime.
Brian, one of the transfers I'm curious your opinion on, Hakeem Williams was Mike Norvell's only 5-star at FSU. It did not work out for him. I do not think that was his fault, really. But, he did get passed by some transfers in the spring this year. It comes on. Has he stepped into a situation because they do use 4 and 5 wide receivers pretty equally among other teams comparatively, that this is something that will allow him to live up to his potential?
I think the opportunity is absolutely there for a guy like that, he's got that star potential. There are those receivers. I mentioned Draylon Omarion. Joseph Williams comes over from Tulsa. He was the AAC Freshman of the Year this last year. So there are some guys that have proven it. Hakeem Williams, though, might have been the highest recruited guy out of high school among all of them. And so there's definitely that opportunity there. And, Coach Prime gives those opportunities to guys like that. And so if he steps up and does what he's supposed to do, he will have every opportunity. He's certainly got the ability to be a big-time weapon for them.
So I think Smoak mentioned the turf change at the top. What was the reasoning behind that? It seems like a lot of people are going to grass, but I don't know. It might be the weather out there in Colorado. And just in line with that, what other kind of sprucing up, or has there been anything else that's of note maybe for fans there that Colorado's been active in getting done this offseason?
Well, the big reason for the turf, and when I talked to them about it, they said that it was the ability to host a college football playoff game in December in Boulder. But really, the big reason is they can host concerts there at Folsom Field. And as you guys know, with the way college sports is changing, they got to come up with money to pay players, and frankly, they got to come up with money to pay Coach Prime. Between the $20.5 million to players and another $5 million a year to Coach Prime, that's $25 million a year CU's never had to pay before. This allows them to actually host concerts where there's not going to be that it's not going to tear up the grass and they can't play a football game a week later. There's actually they're trying to set up concerts during some of their off weeks, things like that. So this gives them the ability to host more concerts throughout the year and not tear up the grass. Those are big revenue streams. The last few years they've hosted some concerts in July, and no, those are big revenue streams for them. This allows them to do that a lot more. We're going to see a lot more events at Folsom Field, I believe, non-football events.
Brian, does the bowl game and how that ended, getting thumped by BYU, come into play at all?
I don't think so. There hasn't really been a lot of talk about that. And I think a large part of it is because it's such a new team and so many of those key players from last year, aren't a part of this anymore. And so I don't think that's going to be it. Maybe it'll be a topic as we get closer to the season, but it really hasn't been talked about. I mean, throughout the spring, there was very little talk about that bowl game at all, other than, that was a nice season. Let's build on it.
Brian, what do you think that people don't know about this Colorado team in the post-Hunter Shedeur era that they'll find out this year, or that will be maybe the story?
Yeah, well, as I look at some of the preview magazines that are coming out so far and I see where the Buffs are picked fairly low, I think people are going to be surprised that this team is better than they think. And I don't think this is a great team. I mean, they will tell you they're better than last year, which I find hard to believe. I need to see it before I believe they're going to be better than a Shedeur and Travis led team. But I think they're going to be a pretty good team, one that is in a bowl game and surprises some people. I think that it's going to be a team that, is salty on defense, even though they lost a lot of guys there. There's still some talent there, and I think they're going to run the football more. I don't know who's going to be their lead guy, but I think they're going to run the ball a bit more than they have the last couple of years.
Well, they need to, right? They need to also to help with Salter and whatever else they do with Lewis at quarterback. They need to help. They've been trying to do that. They really have. So
I will say I don't know if they've tried as much as honestly. I mean, they've talked about trying, but those in the media, we talk about like, are they really trying? I mean, they keep saying it, but then they'll run the ball a few times in the first quarter, and then that's about it. So I think they're going to try more this year. I'll say that.
Well, yeah, and they even if they can toss it around and throw for a lot of yards, and who knows how good they'll be. It's just part of you got to have some sort of a threat to be able to do that. And now also late in the game to be able to, milk the clock and run it down if you get the ball and the lead at the same time. What are your thoughts and expectations about with all the changes in names? They'll have some, as we mentioned earlier, that eventually rise to prominence. Where are they? Because remember last year, Arizona State was picked dead last. Colorado was probably around 10, 12, 13, whatever. And some of the schools like Utah and Oklahoma State blew a tire. Where do you expect Colorado to be when the media polls released?
I think they're going to be around 10 or 12. I mean, when I look at the preview magazines, that's about where they are. I think they're going to be in that 10 to 12 range. I'd be surprised if they're in that upper half of the league. And I base a lot of it on last year. I mean, they were so low last year. It was funny to me that the media picked Travis as defensive player of the year in the preseason and Shedeur the first team quarterback, but the team way down at the bottom, like, well, how are you going to have the best quarterback and the best defensive player and be so low? That told me that the media viewed Colorado as 2 stars and not a whole lot else. And now those 2 stars are gone. So I think that a lot of people are going to look at Colorado as not having a whole lot, and they're going to pick him around that 10, 12 mark. I wouldn't be surprised if they're even lower than that, maybe 13. So I think the expectations outside of Boulder are going to be pretty low.
I'm sure he will. How much do you think that Deion would enjoy being a little engine that could a little bit without that mass? I mean, like, take Shedeur out of it. Travis Hunter alone, massive star power. They don't have that necessarily, but the parts could be better than the whole, or whatever that term is, another time around.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, I think one of the reasons he's back is that he wants to prove he can still coach without his son and without Travis Hunter. And frankly, if they get to a bowl game, that probably won't meet their expectations. But let's put this in perspective with CU. If they get to a bowl game this year, that's 2 years in a row. The last coach to do that at CU was Gary Barnett, who was here 20 years ago. So it's been a long time since CU's been to back-to-back bowl games, and he'll hang his hat on that, and they should. That he'd be the first coach in over 20 years to get them to back-to-back bowls, and I think that's going to be a big driving force for him.
Coach McCartney, of course, who passed away back earlier this year. There's going to be the statue. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. Is that going to be already up, or are they raising funds to do that during the season?
It's not up yet. I believe it's built. I'm not sure, but I can't remember which game they're going to do. But they're going to unveil it at one of the home games this year. I don't know which one it is. I don't think they've announced it yet, but it's going to be unveiled sometime this fall.
Anything else, guys? Nope. Appreciate it, Brian. Thank you very much. Good to see you, my friend. Have a great
bet.
day.
Anytime.
Yep,
Thanks.
we will. Brian Howe from the Boulder Daily Camera on the Buffaloes. I asked this question in the chat room: which state has the most bison residing on their land?
I would say Montana.
I would have thought Wyoming, and it's South Dakota. Well, again, like Craig says, AI is never wrong. But I looked that up on many different sites. But by Wyoming, I thought it'd be Wyoming. Some said, Colorado, but some said Wyoming, but it's South Dakota. And did we not, when we went to, was it Denver? When we
when we went to the
women's
saloon.
Final Four.
Oh yeah, we went to that place. I had a bison ribeye. Was what I had.
It was really good.
It was amazing. I want us to get back to Denver just so we can go back there. I think, especially since Craig is such a Tombstone fan, he will love the Buckhorn Exchange.
Yeah, that was
because
fun.
It is. Yep. It's right out of Tombstone. I mean, it was an actual saloon in the Old West that still exists in the middle of downtown Denver. And it's awesome.
There's two movies. Craig's off the radar around the corner. There are two movies that no matter when I pick them up, and a lot of times, example, Saving Private Ryan is during various events when it talks, Memorial Day and others, Veterans Day, you'll see the movies play all throughout the weekend. There are two movies, Saving Private Ryan and Tombstone, that no matter when I pick up the movie, whether 30 minutes into it, 5 minutes into it, or near the very end of it, I can't stop watching it.
Yeah.
Those are the two.
But so, Craig, I'll tell you, and I know that you're not as adventurous, but on the appetizer menu, Rocky Mountain oysters, which I tried one. Did you try one, Smokey?
Yeah, I did.
There's those guys next to us had
Yeah,
them.
we did. I think mine were they grilled or were they deep fried?
Yeah. They also have a rattlesnake, which I would actually like to try on it. But most of the menu is, T-bone, beef tenderloin, all that.
Craig, you're not doing the Rocky Mountain?
No.
Oysters, that's no way you do that.
Yeah, but you can get buffalo there, and they have elk and Cornish game hen and quail. And, they kind of have the old school, you could eat it like you were in the Old West, or you can, kind of go with the, normal.
And it wasn't like that Italian restaurant that we went to in Vegas. It was a $1,400 tab.
Well, I'm glad it's dropped from 2,000 than it was the other day.
It was it was neat. It was great. We were I think we went upstairs, one way on the second floor.
Yeah, it was very cool. Craig would just dig it for the history vibe of it. So
Sure would. All right, when we come back, off the radar, around the corner, Bob Thompson. What does CBS and their deal with the Pac-12 mean for the Pac-12? What does it mean for CBS? What does it mean for the Mountain West Conference and more? That, and also in the 5 o'clock hour, we'll hear from Paul at his top five, and Andrew Valade will look back at the poll results. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. I have one of those. I forgot what it is. A stone. One of those stones that you put in the oven. You put the oven on about 450, and you want to make your own pizza. I do that all the time. I love it. I enjoy that. But there's Marco's Pizza too. And if I don't feel like I want pizza, but I don't want to make it or go through that process, and I've done it, by the way, I've even done it with the dough that I've created and been able to roll out. But Marco's Pizza, when I want to deliver pizza to my condo, that's who I call. Bob Mock, with 5 locations in the Waco area: Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Hewitt, and Woodway. Marco's Pizza, when they have the Marco's Pizza pepperoni and Italian Magnifico, loaded across the board from the top all the way through with pepperoni and also the Italian sausage. I love Italian sausage. It's got a little kick to it too. I enjoy that part of it. If you want that pizza, you can order it online. Marco's Pizza with many specials. Could be just a plain and simple pepperoni pizza, whatever you want, or one that has just vegetables if you don't like any of the meat and protein on top of it. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports as we get into a grab bag of topics here in this segment on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so here we are, and I do have a grab bag of stories to get to kind of break up the guests and the college football talk. And so we'll still have some of that, especially as we get into college football season. That'll be most of the segment, actually. But for now, here in this middle of the summertime, there's a lot going on in a lot of different places. And that includes the College World Series, a final look back at the College World Series and the ratings that came down from this past weekend in LSU's 2-0 sweep of Coastal Carolina. The finals for ESPN averaged 2.5 million viewers, down 11% according to Sports Media Watch from last year's Tennessee A&M series that went 3 games and averaged 2.82 million. So 300,000 plus less for this year's, also 1 less game. But it was the most watched sweep since the best of 3 format was instituted back in 2003. So a nice number, 2.78 million viewers for Game 2 that saw LSU win the national championship. That was also broadcast in addition to the ESPN networks on ABC as well. Slightly down from A&M and Tennessee a year ago, but 6th largest audience for a men's College World Series game on the ESPN network. So couple million, I think, was kind of the gist of the softball championship games, and a couple million plus basically the gist for the baseball championship games as well. So I think you know that you've got a healthy 2 million that'll tune into these games, and beyond that, it depends on the matchup, and it can shift a few 100,000 here or there. But meanwhile, Jay Johnson and his national championship team are in Baton Rouge, and they have announced the details of their celebration coming up. Obviously, the Thunder celebrating their title in Oklahoma City today, but LSU will honor their national champions tomorrow with a celebration at Alex Box Stadium and Skip Bertman Field. Fans can enjoy a musical performance by rising country star and current LSU Tiger Timothy Wayne.
Who?
I don't know.
Bro.
But gates will open at 7. There will be the musical performance by Timothy Wayne right before the celebration. And they'll have a celebration at 8 o'clock, and it'll be about an hour get-together for that. So getting a little bit of the weeds here, but if you're an LSU fan, you're probably already well aware, but free admission admission is free and will be general admission for all non-premium areas, and they get into all the details of it. But they're going to party in Baton Rouge, basically, is the gist of this tomorrow. And they had a couple million plus people watching them win yet another baseball championship this past weekend. And I mean, I don't think people know how to party like they know how to party down in Louisiana. So they've been able to celebrate.
Any other day, right?
Yeah, they've been able to celebrate a lot, and it is basically like every day to them. So they've got another celebration coming their way. Meanwhile, Oklahoma City having their parade today to celebrate their championship. And man, what a brutal day for the NBA's dying crowd. How long has it been dying now, by the way? For about 15 years? Same as the NFL there for a while was
Since
dying.
Jordan retired.
Yeah, it's very fun to point that out when they're not great. I don't think I've seen very many dunking on the NBA ratings tweets today, as Game 7 averaged 16.6 million viewers across ABC and ESPN+, highest rated, most watched NBA game in the past 6 years since Game 6 of the 2019 Finals. Warriors and Raptors had over 18.5 million viewers for that one. So not a single game in that time span from 2019 had hit 14 million, but the closest had been 13.99 back in 2022. That was Warriors Celtics. So that's two pretty big-ass brands that are battling it out, and that's like peak Warriors, and obviously Boston's got their gang in tow as well. But that was the closest to 14 that had been hit in the last 6 years, and this 16.6 million viewers. So between the Halliburton injury, I guess early on, but the Pacers making it a game, and just the fact that this was such a tightly contested contest, it did lead to big numbers ultimately for the final game of the NBA regular season. And the most watched NBA game since 2019 outside of that the most watched game since 2019, and by a good margin, by almost 3 million viewers.
Yeah. It's two small market teams. Yeah. GTFO, man.
I mean, like I say, I point out this stuff just because it's off the radar, and this is a place for it if there is a place for it. But I do see all the deaths to the NBA tweets, all because of politics. We understand that, but that's a very, very good number. And the earlier games were not very high necessarily. There was some disappointment, but ultimately when a title was on the line, and that was enough to attract people to that Game 7. So I don't know if the NBA deems that a success or not. I would think that they do. I'm not really here to categorize it one way or the other, but it was a really good number, and that was good to see given all the way that people were all the ways people were finding to try and crap on this series as it was ongoing. So that was good to see them get a little bit of a nice send-off for the season.
But by the way, Craig, Timothy Wayne is Tim McGraw's nephew.
Okay.
So according to his bio, his uncle Tim said he'd have to forge his own path, but would help produce some songs for him along the way. So if you're a fan of Tim McGraw's nephew, go ahead and
Well, go see him tomorrow night in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at the LSU baseball celebration. He'll be the pregame show, basically.
I'm already booked seeing Garth Brooks' third cousin, so I can't quite make it. But.
Yeah, well, that's understandable. He's a very talented fellow from what I understand. Meanwhile, the Thunder Parade, I mentioned that a couple times. Don't have numbers from that, but the expectation was over 500,000 people would be there in Oklahoma City celebrating as part of the parade route. And actually, one police official had said he expected a minimum of 600,000 people. Now, they won't have a tally on the actual number for at least another day or two, but they did have over 100 suspected heat-related illness calls, 24 people taken to hospitals for treatment. So the heat getting to some people out there, but looked like a very healthy crowd. Nothing crazy to report, no violence or nothing terrible happening, just a great day of celebration. And that's not always the case, as we've seen in some past celebrations, but a really cool day for a really neat city there in Oklahoma City. And, happy for those folks. Know a ton of them. Have relatives up there that are Thunder fans. They're very excited. They didn't make it out to the parade, but for all those that did, the 600,000 or so, looks like it went off without a hitch outside of there being the heat to have to deal with. But what a week for Oklahoma City and for the Thunder franchise.
Really expected Emory to be there, but that's a long drive to go up there for that and get, like heat, sunburned and whatever. Good for them. Good for the fans to be able to sit there a couple of days later and have this massive parade. And the players, like what was brought up with the Adam Flagler interview with Aaron Wiggins and what he did and how much he had the speech of all time in some people's opinions. I'm proud for them. I'm happy for the city of Oklahoma City.
Yeah, so there's championships being won and parades going on, and so that's a little bit of what's going on off the radar. But meanwhile, another NBA story that just came down that's of note because of one of the people involved and just of note in the big picture things. But the Minnesota Timberwolves have been officially sold, and so has their WNBA counterpart, the Minnesota Lynx, a total deal of $1.5 billion as Alex Rodriguez, former baseball star, is now in the NBA ownership business alongside, and I don't know how much alongside as far as the money goes, behind, but on the same team as the real face of the franchise, entrepreneur Mark Lohr, the new owner, along with Alex Rodriguez, NBA giving them approval today. It had been a long, ongoing 4-year process that you may have seen headlines about from time to time, as a deal was initially reached 4 years ago, but it's taken all the way until now to get that actually approved. So there's been a lot of back and forth, but the deal is finally done. 51 months is what it took since the initial agreement, according to the AP. It does include the 4-time WNBA champion Minnesota Lynx, as well as I mentioned a second ago. They'll have a news conference next month in Las Vegas when Summer League opens up. Lohr and Rodriguez will serve as co-chairman. Lohr will be the governor, which is the president. Rodriguez will be the alternate governor. And then Rodriguez will serve as governor of the Lynx, while Lohr will be the alternate governor. So A-Rod is a NBA owner. And it did make me think, though, of $1.5 billion for the NBA and the WNBA franchise just seems a little low. I mean, it seems like not very high of a price tag.
Well, especially considering what the Lakers just
went for. The Lakers just got $10+ million.
Yeah.
Billion.
Yeah.
The Mavericks, I guess it was almost 2 years ago now at this point, they sold for $3.5 billion. So that was $2 billion more than this deal. And I don't remember, they don't own the Wings, so that wasn't lumped into the Mavericks sale either. You just had the Celtics get sold recently for a little over $6 billion. I keep saying million, for $6 billion. So, kind of a low price tag of just a $1.5 billion for both the NBA and the WNBA franchises. But if you had Alex Rodriguez being an NBA owner on your bingo card, you can safely scratch that spot now. Mark Lohr, meanwhile, an e-commerce billionaire and investor, sold one of his companies, diapers.com, to Amazon for over $500 million, sold jet.com to Walmart for over $3 billion. He was a part of Walmart's e-commerce department, and he's done a lot of other big things, but a big money guy and now the owner of the Timberwolves.
Well, good for him and all his success.
He's been trying, man. That's been kind of a battle, and I actually just kind of forgot about whether or not he was still involved or not. I wanted it, but good for him.
Yeah, so $10 billion for the Lakers, $6.1 for the Celtics, $3.5 or so for the Mavericks, and now $1.5 for the Timberwolves and also their WNBA counterparts. And just a couple more notes here. Aaron Rodgers I've staved off mentioning him very much because there's really been nothing to say, quite frankly. I don't find him nearly as interesting as he finds himself. I'll say it that way. But he was on, guess where? The Pat McAfee show, and said in his latest interview, and I had this in place when I thought it was a bit of a slower news day and there weren't some other headlines that eventually dropped. This was very much one of the, well, I guess this is out there. But Aaron Rodgers says that he's pretty sure this will be his final season. Said that he's pretty sure this is it. That's why they just did a one-year deal, didn't put on any extra years or anything. So this was really about finishing with a lot of love and fun and peace for the career that I've had. He said, I played 20 years. It's been a long run. I've enjoyed it. No better place to finish than in one of the cornerstone franchises of the NFL with Mike Tomlin and a great group of leadership and great guys in the city that expects you to win. So there you go. Aaron Rodgers saying this will probably be it. And I think the NFL is going, yeah, buddy, it probably is it because none of us other guys are going to sign you. So, yeah, this is pretty much it for you. And then after that, I don't know. I will say it's been a nice reprieve. I don't know what Pat McAfee's been up to. He might have some things he's doing behind the scenes because I've read there's a story on him last week and some of the tiffs with ESPN or whatever, and he's hinting at big things are coming, and people are trying to read into that. I'm not reading into that at all, but I have noticed he's been absent from Monday Night Raw for the past couple of weeks, and if he wants to miss some more time, that's totally fine by me because I was all gung-ho at first, and after a while, he can be a lot, and I'm kind of in need of a McAfee break before football season when he'll take off like the whole half of the year. But he has missed the last couple shows, but he's been doing his regular show, and that's where Aaron Rodgers said all that today. So
he is not a guy who has a nuanced levels of performance. He's
all gas, no brakes.
Yeah, exactly. So you're either going to love it or you're just going to be like, okay, that's not for me. One of the things that Aaron Rodgers said on the show was that once he retires, he will take himself out of the public eye. And I for one, would love for him to hold to that.
Yeah, I mean, he really doesn't pop up much outside of when he does the McAfee show. So I think that's definitely doable. It's just, when's he actually going to retire? It looks like it'll be after this year. Now, if he has a Jets moment where it's week 1 and he runs out there and then he's hurt right away, like, is that how we're going to end things? Hopefully that's not the case for him, just as a human being. But if you are interested in that, he went a lot deeper into his life and all that kind of jazz. But the point being that he's looking at this as his last ride. And then finally, Arizona Wildcats baseball made the College World Series. They have rewarded head baseball coach Chip Hale with a 4-year extension that takes him through 2030. No details on the terms of the deal, but Desiree Reed-Francois, their AD, saying Arizona baseball's long been one of the nation's premier programs, and Chip Hale has honored that legacy while elevating our standard of excellence. He is a proud Wildcat, a proven leader, and a tremendous ambassador for the University of Arizona. With Chip leading the way, we are well positioned to compete for championships and continue developing exceptional young men on and off the field. So the boilerplate press release, basically, you just switch some things around, but that's what you usually say and what you get in a congratulations message like that. And so Chip Hale getting an extension there with Arizona after their trip to Omaha. So congrats to him. And there's a few things that are off the radar.
Those 4 Pac-12 teams that Brett Yormark negotiated, and it took a while. It seemed like it was never going to happen. Then you always felt like, no, it's going to happen. They all have done a pretty good job. Colorado with Dion giving the conference a lot of publicity. BYU having a nice run and what they're doing, obviously, with what Arizona did in baseball and basketball and Arizona State when it came to football this past year, and they hope into the future too. Let me see here. Oh, Garrett, here's a picture. Chet Holmgren celebrating, enjoying himself. His arms, you would think, will probably be beat red by tonight or tomorrow, being in that parade, walking down the street and having him a little smoke.
Yeah, I don't know what that was, vape or something like that.
I don't know what it is, but he's having a good time.
Who is that?
Enjoying it. It's Chet Holmgren.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Alien-looking dude like that. I mean,
the looks like a praying mantis, man. He's a big man.
Yeah, he is. He's a very good basketball player.
He's tougher. When he was at Gonzaga, I remember how good he was. But I always wondered about guys like that and how if they're going to get beat up in the NBA. He is a tough, and he's got some swagger to him. I I'm happy for him. And sometimes those big, tall guys they get hurt. They get injured because of foot injuries, etc. Some of that's happened over the years.
You know why he doesn't get hurt because of his foot injury? Because there's only 106 pounds on top of those bones. I mean, Greg Oden got hurt because of his feet because he was
a big man, though.
260 pounds.
Yeah.
And he wasn't fat, but he's a big, muscular guy. I mean, seriously, you could, if you made like an overhead compartment, like all the way, like without the breaker, you could fit him in probably 2 overhead compartments back to back on a plane, and he would have room to move around.
Yeah. Sam Bowie was one, Bill Walton, foot injuries, and many others. What's his name? From Houston, the Rockets, Yao Ming, right? Had some issues eventually with his lower extremities. When we come back, Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports CEO, on what does the CBS deal with the Pac-12 really mean? What does it mean, and what does it also mean for the Mountain West, and what's next, perhaps, when it comes to the Pac-12 as they try to build things in momentum into the future? This is 365 Sports.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved, learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
365 Sports. Bob Thompson will join us here momentarily. Paul sent this to me. The voice of Nebraska football and I think baseball too. Greg Sharp passed away, had pancreatic cancer, and he lost his battle last fall. Kyle Crooks is the new voice of Nebraska football, and he's from Florida, or he's been doing the Gators for the last 8 years. And I was surprised by that because Florida, a big, nice, massive athletic department, good for Nebraska, apparently a talented young man.
Look, and Florida's pretty good and everything. I would say this is probably comes with a raise because to get away from that would have to be a lot. No, I mean, like would have to be a lot because it's a good gig to
Oh,
have.
no, yeah.
I will also say this, though. I would be nervous if I was anybody up for a contract at Florida right now because the university side is in total chaos. I mean, absolute chaos.
Worse than Arizona State was dealing with?
Oh, I mean, they fired a president because that president was doing something wrong. Then they brought in Ben Sass and fired
From Michigan.
him from
right?
Nebraska. He was a senator from Nebraska.
Right.
So Ben Sass comes in, and then he starts throwing these like lavish fundraisers where, they're, really crazy stuff. And he got accused of kind of skimming some money off the top and not raising enough money. So they get rid of Ben Sass. Then they hire a guy from Michigan who then the board of governors, which is all appointed by Ron DeSantis now, the Florida board of governors, it's not based on any kind of merit on these things. It's just a political appointment by the governor. And so the governor makes those appointments based on solely political things. This guy from Michigan supported one DEI initiative in his time at Michigan. And then the Florida, the people who wanted to be president decided that they couldn't get him. So the board fires him because he's not politically with them. And there's just a whole lot of chaos going on that side right now. So if I'm working there and have an opportunity, I would probably leave, even if I liked it, because there's just a lot of chaos on the stuff that you cannot control.
Well, that's a long story to get to the point where he left.
I'm just saying,
take the job. We're now joined by, among all of the guests we've had in 5+ years, one of the great ones, all of them are good. Bob Thompson, former Fox CEO, joins us on 365 Sports. Look at you. You look like you got that summer. Well, it's always that way, that tan in Scottsdale. Did you play this morning?
No, tomorrow. It's cool. It's only 96. So last week was a little tough, but fortunately I was up in the northern part of New Mexico where it was a lot cooler.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's warming up.
So what does the news of CBS and the Pac-12 TV deal mean in the end?
Well, it's a good start. I think that's kind of where it's at. I think it was good for the Pac-12 to come out and actually announce something. There's been a lot of waiting going on, and I think it's a good first start for them at this point. Exposure is paramount, more important than the money. They just need to be out there as widely distributed as possible. And while there's not a ton of events that are going to be on CBS, the big network, as part of this deal, those that are on CBS will get wide exposure, a la what the Big Ten gets. And then a number of the events will be on CBS Sports Network. It's very similar to their CBS's existing setup with the Mountain West Conference.
So they have to go get another team. Texas State, seen as the leader in that right now. What kind of domino effect will it have, whether it's Texas State, or somebody else, once they do get their 8th football member?
Domino effect as it relates to other conferences?
Yeah, other conferences and other conferences' media deals.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I think somebody said, or I read somewhere that it was 4 years ago today that Texas and OU both bolted.
Oh my God. I didn't think that. Yeah. It was this. Yeah.
And I think it's coming up here where it was 3 years that USC and UCLA bolted. So we're still seeing the effects of that. And this one's played out a little longer, obviously, but we're now rolling down through the G's. And once the Pac-12 is done, it looks as though the Mountain West Conference is set, but there's going to be some effects, whether it be, CUSA, Sun Belt, who knows what's going on with the AAU or AAC, and whether or not, Memphis bolts or, Tulane, one of those folks bolt. But we're out of the Power Four and the bigger G's, and we're moving down to the smaller G's. And, you just got to play through it. As it relates to the TV side, really the only deal that's coming up of any consequence, besides the Pac-12, that they're trying to put finalized, touches to, is the Mountain West Conference. And that's one of the interesting things that's going on here is, as I mentioned, the CBS deal looks very similar. The CBS deal with the Pac-12 looks very similar to their deal with the Mountain West. So the question there becomes, would they go back for more Mountain West, or is that going to kind of put a little kink in the Mountain West Conference's plans? If you look at the schools that left the Mountain West Conference, it's probably, to be quite honest, other than maybe Air Force and maybe a UNLV, the schools most appealing to CBS are now in the Pac-12. So I think this deal with the Pac-12 is puts a little bit of fear into the Mountain West Conference. It's the ladies from Endeavor, Karen and Hillary, who represent the Mountain West Conference, and they're very good. So I can imagine that they're out there shaking the trees. I would expect they've having conversations with everybody, and they could be still having conversations with CBS and Fox. They have one more year to go, so they still have some time. But that's the deal that comes to mind, just because it's up and needs to be renegotiated or extended.
I feel like we've come full circle. We got Bob and Karen from Endeavor and all that. It feels like deja vu, and just, I don't know, just spark some things in me from the past couple of years there, Bob. Good to talk to you as always. When it comes to Texas State and just what the Pac is looking for, I mean, any idea on, they obviously have to have one more football team, but any idea on appetite beyond that and what the TV network's appetite is? And when it comes to the TV network side, how are they viewing these teams? Because, quite often we'd go like, well, what's the market size and what's the this and what's the that? When you're looking at Texas State versus whoever, what's being looked at here in your mind, and what will be looked at moving forward, do you feel like?
Craig's good to talk to you. Yes, those Fox people are everywhere. We don't go away. We just hang around.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Texas State, I think, brings obviously a presence in Texas, which, whether it's as big as UT, which it obviously isn't, but it's still a presence in Texas. And I think that's good for the Pac-12 to plant their flag in that state to some extent. I've always kind of said it would be a mistake to fly over Texas to get to Memphis. I think Texas is just too rich from a football and basketball standpoint. Now, as far as how the TV guys look at it, at this point, I'm sure the TV folks have a pretty good idea who the Pac-12 is going after. And they probably have given, a blessing to whoever that candidate is. But I'm not sure at the end of the day, whether it's Texas State, Texas San Antonio, Memphis, Tulane, I don't know that it really makes a ton of difference. I think the bigger question is, are you adding 1, 2, or 3? Because that then, changes the inventory tune that the networks have available to, produce games from. So that's important. But you're right. I think, we're kind of beyond brands, market size, things like that. Now we're looking at, okay, who's going to make the investment going forward to their programs so that they're considered an addition to the conference, as opposed to some sort of it was okay. We're glad to have them, but we wish they would do better. And it seems to me that Texas State has that commitment.
So the CBS deal with the Pac-12, was that a new deal or an extension of what they already had? And CBS Sports Network, will they end up probably doing most of the Pac-12 games and only a handful on CBS, the network?
Well, they have a deal this year as a 1-year deal. The CBS is involved with it, but so I guess you could technically call it an extension. It's significantly different than the deal they have now for this one season, the last of the Pac-2, Washington State, Oregon State. I would expect, as with the Mountain West Conference, that there's 3, maybe a few more games on CBS, the big network. Obviously, the conference championship game will be on CBS football, and the conference championship basketball game will be on football or on CBS. The heavy lifting will be done most likely by CBS Sports Network. I think that, as it was with the Mountain West Conference, that's what's important to CBS in terms of, we want this content. We need some tonnage for CBS Sports Network, which it's nice to have a few games for the network. It wouldn't surprise me if those games on CBS Network were, think Oregon State, Washington State, obviously when they're home games for the Mountain or for the Pac-12 school. And then, I'm sure there's probably a handful of Boise State games and some other non-conference games that will be home games for the Pac-12 schools that might be enticing to CBS to put up on the big network. But I think for the most part, the tonnage aspect, and I expect CBS Sports Network to have a significant number of games. It's hard to say, and the reason they were so vague in the release is because they still got these other deals they're working on. And so until all the stuff is divvied up, it's really kind of hard to get an idea of exactly how many games will be on which outlet.
So, Bob, the Mountain West 5, the ones who are now attached to the Pac-12, are they going to get more money than they were getting in the Mountain West Conference? Is there a slight jump or is it about the same?
They're going to get more money. I have to think here. The Mountain West Conference deal is a little unusual. Boise State gets a higher amount than the other schools. I want to say it's in the $5 to $7 million range. They're in the last year of their deal, so it's probably towards the higher end. My expectation is that a full share is going to be in the $7 to $9 million range per school. So it's a slight increase, not a huge increase. I expect Gonzaga to receive a full share, even though they're basketball only. Some stuff came out the other day. I think the commissioner was talking about how they're going to divvy up revenue. So for instance, if you get to the NCAA basketball tournament, you get to keep half of your units. The other half goes into a pot that's divvied up amongst all the schools in the conference. I think that there's probably going to be Oregon State and Washington State get to retain certain CFP payments for a couple more years that the other schools don't get to participate in, because Oregon State, Washington State were kind of original CFP power conference members. How they split up the bowl money, things like that, it still seems to be rather vague, but it seems as though they're going to at least start out with pretty equal revenue sharing across the board.
Bob, Cody Campbell in the Presidential Commission, one of their tenets of that, or whatever, or at least his beliefs, is that they should negotiate the TV deal collectively, and that all the conferences should do that, and that would be a rising tide lifts all boats. Is there a possible way to do that with all of the conferences together sharing in some sort of, I don't want to say evenly distributed, but fairly distributed model through all of them?
Sure. My email is thompsonsports@gmail.com. No, I thought a lot about that, and some of the comments that Mr. Campbell made, I don't know him, makes some sense. It's not always a situation, though, that a rising tide lifts all boats, especially as some of the boats have a hole in them. So well, I just came up with that, doesn't it?
That's pretty good.
It certainly would help, but I don't know if it's going to be the end-all answer for for college football and whatever this next level is. I think, there were some good points in probably the shortest lived commission ever.
Yeah.
It was right up there with the Alliance.
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
Pac-12. So, yeah, I think, negotiating jointly has some benefits. It certainly worked for the NFL. You look at other sports and it's kind of a mishmash. You've got a mixture of local and national in NBA, NHL, MLB. In college football, it's kind of gone geographically by conference, but the whole geographic nature of college football is kind of out the window. So, it would help, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be, the golden egg that everybody thinks it might be.
Are you at all surprised that after 1 year of the 12-team playoff, everybody's moved on to trying to make it a 14 or 16 or whatever team playoff? And do you just expect this to kind of be the case? Are we closing in on a format that will last for years? Or, how do you see that all being determined?
Well, I think, Mr. Sankey and Mr. Petiti need to get on the same page because it's really up to them, based on how I understand the new voting rules or the current voting rules.
Right.
I think, I was comfortable with the 12 team. Clearly they had the issue with the seeding, and that was pretty evident in the first year. And that would have been an easy fix. The whole idea of expanding to 14 or 16, I don't know why you go to 14. I'd just go straight to 16. If it was me. I think that the dollars that are going to be the incremental dollars from a television standpoint aren't going to be huge, because all you're doing is setting yourself up for a bunch more games up against the NFL that time of season. So until you can figure out how to coexist with the NFL and not step on each other's scheduling toes, I don't, the TV money is not going to be huge because you're going to be up against NFL games. So, should they stick with 12? I don't know that they need to stick to 12. I think they can. Is there a ton more money in going to 16? Not a lot. I think the home games are nice for the schools that get to host them. Home games worth a couple $1 million to each school that actually hosts. And I think for the sport, it certainly creates some additional marquee product. I'm not sure though that it's something that has to be done. I think the 12 teams with the reseed is fine, but the bigger question to me is the automatic qualifiers and who's getting how many.
Bob, with CBS Sports, CBS in this deal, no matter what we're talking about, is their streaming service Paramount Plus? Is that what it is? For example, ESPN has ESPN Plus, because Paramount Plus also has a bunch of movies and a bunch of other shows that I watch. Just somebody asked me that in the chat, and I wanted to make sure I didn't just toss it out there without it.
Right.
That's what I've watched. I've streamed on Paramount Plus.
Right. So historically, what CBS has done has streamed on Paramount Plus sports events that also air on CBS. They haven't streamed sports events that air on CBS Sports Network. So with the NFL, on a Sunday, any given Sunday, you would be able to get whatever your game is. And if CBS has the national game, that national game would be distributed on Paramount Plus as well. So that's how they did it with the basketball tournament or the NCAA tournament, as well as what they've done with regular season college football with their Big Ten product and obviously with the NFL.
Bob, I'm curious your thoughts, and this is just from an overall media aspect, but there is a sports component to it. The decision of Warner Brothers Discovery to split again and all that, they've gone through all these changes only to kind of go back where they were, including the name, which changed a bunch. What do you think that means for the TNT side, the sports aspect of it all?
Well, I guess the question is, who's going to – so there's two of these going on. The NBC Universal Comcast split, where all the NBC television – a lot of the NBC television assets are going to be split off into a company called Versant. And then now you've got kind of a mirror episode here with Warner Brothers Discovery. I think so far both have said they're interested in continuing with sports. I mean, obviously, USA Network's had a fair amount of sports. Golf Channel's got to have something. And then the flip side is if you go over to the WBD, they've got the baseball, they've got a variety of smaller college football packages. They've got the NCAA basketball tournament with CBS. So all those type of things, are certainly going to be around at least for the next 5-6 years. And my understanding is that, they're actively out there talking to CBS, actively talking to UFC, or excuse me, not CBS, WBD, and basically the channels that are splitting off, TNT Sports, those guys. So they're going to keep playing, I think. No matter what you want to say about kind of the linear television business, it still throws off a lot of cash. I mean, it threw off a lot more cash when there was 100 million subscribers. But at 50, 60 million subscribers, which if you count the YouTube TVs of the world and the Hulu Plus Live TVs of the world, you're at that 60, 65 million. It's still a pretty good business. And they'll ride that as long as they can, believe me.
Bob, how much per school in the SEC would each school, or what would the conference be able to get if they ever were to strike a deal with ESPN to go to 9 conference games?
Well, it's an interesting equation because if you go to 9 conference games, that means I figured this out once with Ross, every other year you lose a game, right? Because normally they have an extra non-conference game that's a home game. Now, they have to pay to get somebody to come out to get the crap beat out of them in many cases.
Sure.
And so you're going to save somebody there by not having to do that. But I think at the end of the day, you're probably looking at $4 to $5 million for a game. I mean, a lot of it depends if they keep some of the marquee matchups that have at least what they're talking about could potentially go away. And by that, you're talking Texas A&M, things like that. You might not have that every year. Now, if they go to a 9th game, you would definitely have that every year. So the networks are going to be pushing for it and would pay some. They're not going to pay, an outsized amount. The other thing that could create some additional revenue going forward would be the alignment between the Big Ten and the SEC, where they play conference, non-conference games. They have a scheduling agreement to play a non-conference game. That has value to TV when you get matchups like Texas, Michigan, or Alabama, Oregon, that type of thing. Those are big events and certainly worth some money. The other thing that keeps kicking around that I believe will absolutely happen is not just a championship game, but especially if there's automatic qualifiers, you'll have play-in games where maybe 2 plays 4, I guess it'd be 2 plays 5, 3 plays 4, 1 plays 3, whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's like there's going to be a playoff to get to those automatic qualifiers. So you'll have a conference champion who'll get the top seed, but then you have playoffs for the what other automatic qualifying seeds. That's got some value as well. The one thing they are going to have to do, and I've been kind of jumping on the table about this for a while, they've got to move back to week 0 being week 1.
Yeah, I think that's something Ross Dellinger reported earlier this week, or maybe at the end of last week. Did you ever go to sign a contract where you were shaking because you weren't real sure you were getting the best deal for Fox?
Of course. I mean, that's what we do. You always, you get to that point. There's so much that goes into getting it to the point where you're getting ready to sign. I guess when you sign it, it's always, you get the buyer's remorse.
Sure.
And it's not unusual. I'm happy to say that, certainly there are deals I wish I hadn't done, but there's probably a lot more deals that I didn't think were going to work out that actually worked out very well. So it kind of cuts both ways. But yeah, I mean, it's part of the game. It's a high stakes, it's playing poker with big money. And the real problem is it ain't your money, it's somebody else's. And so you have to keep that into consideration and do what's right for the business and not get caught up in, just buying stuff to be buying stuff. You need to buy it for a purpose and buy it for a reason. And you better be damn sure that the financials are going to work out. Otherwise, you end up being on the outside looking in.
To that end, though, I mean, you mentioned the play-in games and all that. That seems to me, for a lot of fans, it would look like buying stuff to be buying stuff or creating stuff that maybe that they don't necessarily need.
The networks don't necessarily need it. I think the schools need it and the conferences need it because now everybody's, starting out $20.5 million in the hole, and they need to generate as much revenue as they can. And if those playing games can generate some TV revenue as well as it's another home game for somebody, and we'll make some more money from just attendance and tickets and concessions and marketing. That's a good thing to get to that $20.5 million nut that needs to be reached for each of the schools. So, yeah, from a TV standpoint, you're right. I mean, that's going to be a lot of games on that day if several conferences do multiple games. Or it's going to be wall to wall, and there's probably going to be NFL games too. So
yeah. The NFL, they don't give a what about who they're stepping on or sorry, you opened the door, baby. You invited us to go barging right through it. It was 3 years ago, I believe, at the end of this week when Brett Yormark was announced as a new Big 12 commissioner. How would you summarize his 3 years?
Well, he's been busy. I think he got a lot done real fast, and I think he did a good job, although, some credit needs to go to Bob Bowlesby and all his staff of onboarding the new schools, the BYUs, Cincinnati's of the world. I think they did a pretty good job with that. It seemed to come off pretty seamlessly from an operational standpoint. I think some of the stuff he's done is, some of it's reminiscent of, his NASCAR and Brooklyn/New Jersey Nets days, whether it's the WWE collaborations, the basketball at Rucker Park. I mean, Brett's he's a promoter, he's a showman, and that's what he does. And so being on the forefront, looking at the things like private equity, private credit, all that kind of stuff, and looking at what they can do going forward to continue to grow that conference so that they're not just one of the Power Four, they're one of the top ones, one of the top conferences. Do they get there? I don't know, but I think certainly what he's got going forward seems to me to be as good as a plan as I've seen with anybody else.
Bob, greatness. Appreciate your time as always, buddy. Good to see you. Go play. Hit him straight tomorrow.
All right, guys. Good to talk to you. Take care.
Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports CEO and executive chairman with us on 365 Sports. And always remember the days when we finally went, it was not quite this, it was like another month from now when Texas OU story was July 21st of 21. And then, the next summer, USC, UCLA, and then, of course, on and on and on. Appreciate his time. Jim Williams will join us tomorrow with his take on a lot of what's going on, what else is out there, any more meat on the bone for any of the conferences, and what is new moving forward with TV deals for either the Pac-12 and also the Mountain West Conference or elsewhere. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. Went by there, try to go by there about once a month for sure. Went by there, it's been a couple of weeks ago, and I got some 1.25 inch bone-in and also boneless ribeyes. Freaking delicious, man. They're just absolutely gorgeous. I've been cooking a lot of my ribeyes lately in a cast iron skillet and then getting it scarred on both sides, depending on how thick the steak is, usually, and again, an 1.25 inch, and then sticking it in the oven at a lower temperature and letting it kind of sit there and enjoy. but their steaks are delicious. They have a full-service butcher shop also with pork, poultry, and seafood. Right now, they have T-bone steak at $12.50 a pound and the porterhouse steak at $13.25 per pound. Salmon fillets at $12.25 a pound. They are delicious. And if you want them fresh, they have that. Or you can buy the salmon fillets frozen and take them out as you want. Chicken breast and chicken tenders on sale. Bone-in pork chops are on sale as well. And 10-pound case of hamburger patties, $47. The Bauer family, distributing great product all throughout the state of Texas when it comes to restaurants, and maybe the steak or what you eat is from Waco Custom Marketplace. But you can go by their local kind of grocery store type flavor. Waco Custom Marketplace, Lake Air Drive in Waco.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers, everybody, the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy, last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
By the way, it is today's Tuesday, correct? Is it 2 weeks from today that we will be at Big 12 Media Days in Frisco? Is. 2 weeks from today, July 8th and 9th, we'll be up at the Star in Frisco. Paul, here's a pack of baseball cards. This is random. Craig, here's a pack of baseball cards. I was at Walmart, and I forgot while I was there, honestly, but I needed to get a new vacuum cleaner. So I'm sitting there checking out, and I check out. I pay for the vacuum cleaner, and I'm walking out, and, you know, me and my attention issues, I just spotted the Topps baseball cards. Now, this brings back memories of me back when I was, 7, 8, 12, 15 years old. Used to have thousands of these cards, opening up a pack of cards. Now, so far, and this is a random segment, when I told Paul and everyone, Craig, that nobody disagreed with it, but Francisco Lindor, pretty good player, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
How much the box cost you? $75?
No, I don't think it was. I don't remember.
50?
There were
something like that.
It was like 35 or 45. Yeah, something like that. Manny Machado.
Good. Yeah, that's a good pull.
Matt Olson.
Good pull.
George Springer. He's on his way down. Paul Skeens. Dude, right?
Is that your second Paul Skeens?
What's more, huh?
Is that your second Paul Skeens?
No, this is the ones that
earlier. Okay.
And then Luis, what'd you say his name was, Paul? Robert?
Yeah, Luis Robert.
And then also Ronald Acuna, who's a pretty good player. What's the best card in your pack, Paul and Craig? I want to know.
Okay, so I've got a bunch of utility infielders in here.
That's not good.
I did, let's see. I got Josh Smith.
Rangers utility guy?
Yeah. Zach McKinstry, also utility guy. I got Jordan Hicks, a reliever that came over to the Red Sox, Raffy Devers. The two best cards are I got a Luis Arias,
he's a hell of a hitter, right?
And he plays for the Padres and Tony Gwynn's land. And Riley Green is the center fielder for the Tigers, who I like quite a bit. A really good player.
Okay, Craig, anybody of particular?
No, I got a couple like team cards that aren't.
Yeah,
as fun.
I got one of them was like the Minnesota Twins snapping a selfie with other players. I got
one of the Cardinals, but
okay.
Got a jersey patch card of Leo Jimenez.
Okay.
Would have been a lot cooler if that was somebody that.
What is a jersey patch? Is that part of a
part of his jersey?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, like so they cut off a piece of the jersey and they put them in a card.
Interesting. Okay.
They do that with literally everything now that Fanatics has basically taken over cards. Like WWE, now you spot them at a show and it's not always visible, but like somewhere on their gear is a specific square that's been stitched in to then be cut out and then be put into cards.
Oh.
And so I don't know if they do it exactly that way, but that's something I've noticed with wrestling is these little patches that are already on there. Beyond that, these team cards aren't. I don't really care about the just random Royals card. No offense to our Kansas City audience, but that doesn't do much for me. Cody Bellinger got a fancy Fernando Tatis Jr. card here.
Oh yeah.
Did you see the story? You're not
Summer Superstars.
Yeah, I didn't.
Probably worth $5, but it's cool nonetheless. It's nice and flashy, and I saw it and I thought about it for off the radar, but didn't get around to it. But he basically, and I should have had it on there, but he basically signed a deal when he was 17 or 18 years old. I think 17, and it was with this sports firm, which is why I worry about college athletes to some extent, and why when people say they want guardrails, it isn't about having control necessarily. It's also about not having Uncle Tito be the the middleman who then signs you to a ridiculous contract. So basically what happened with Fernando Tatis was he signed a contract with some company that pre-fronted him $2 million. And then it asked for, and I forget what the percentage was, but
a high percentage.
It was a high percentage to begin with, but then when you consider that he signed like a $300 million contract, their $2 million investment basically turned out to him now years later owing them like $36 million. Mm-hmm. So I might have the numbers like slightly wrong, but the $2 million I'm dead sure on. That was what they fronted him. I don't remember the percentage exactly. You can read it. And that turns into like
$34 million.
$34 million. So they're $2 million, like the great business on their part. Yeah. Like, hey, here's $2 million when you're 17, 18. And then when you pan out, if you pan out, you sign a gazillion-dollar deal, then we get our 8% or whatever that is. And they end up making, 16 times the investment that they originally made. And so now he's suing them and he's arguing that he was too young to be in a deal like that. They were predatory and taking advantage of him. And he's saying that this needs to be taken care of because there will be more guys that are victims like he was of these predatory tactics. So, I mean, he signed it. He's not denying that, but he's also saying, well, I was like 17 and I didn't.
So he got $2 million up front.
Yeah.
He got 10% of his future earnings, and he might sign another contract too.
Yeah.
So $34 million is the number out of 300. Yes, that's
brilliant business on their part.
Yeah, it is.
But
I'm surprised it happened because
is that a bad deal to get $2 million up front?
Well, when you're going to lose $34 million a few years later, that deal sucks.
Yeah, no, I guess so.
I'm surprised given the fact that his dad was a 10, 12-year
that's what I first wondered about. And I don't know everybody's backstory, but how do you have a Major League Baseball player father who was like a 10-year vet? I know how, like some ways, like he could be a drug addict or he could be a gambler or he could just suck with money, period. But that was my first thought was like, how do you have a Major League Baseball playing father and you're signing a deal for a couple $1 million when you're 17, 18 years old? Like you couldn't make it for a little while longer and not force yourself into making a decision like this. That's what puzzled me as well.
Yeah.
Bo Bichette
He's probably about to get traded.
Okay.
I think. So.
Some guy named Derek Jeter, baby.
There
right
you
here.
go.
There's a pretty good card. All-Star American League, whatever that might mean. So there we are with some of those. But I go and Gary, keep your damn hands off of Paul Skeens.
You better keep that close, man.
I got it here with me. Yeah, but if you got $2 million as a 17-year-old, yes, the deal in the end turns out to be bad, but what if he had gotten hurt?
Well, I mean, that's the investment risk is that they give him $2 million and he doesn't pan out and they lost $2 million. So very smart business on their part because they ended up making or should, if this goes their way, make 16 times a return on their investment of $2 million. But, yeah, they also could have lost $2 million and never seen any of that money back.
Absolutely.
So that's for the lawyers to decide. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, there's definitely some predatory behavior probably going on. But at the same time, like, why did he need $2 million?
If you had told me this was Manny Machado and not him, I would have been like, okay, well, that makes sense because Manny Machado's dad wasn't a 10-year major league player, like Fernando Tatis Sr. is.
Yeah.
So, that's why it's weird. And
how much is this lawsuit going to cost either one of them, I think, in the end?
I mean, I think the lawsuit's probably worth it for Fernando
Sure.
Tatis.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he's either going to lose $34 million or he's going to get some of that back.
His 14-year deal is not going to run out till 35. I don't know if he'll still be playing. That's 10 years from now. But yeah, $34 million.
He still gets it all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best thing about being a baseball player is
that's exactly right.
I mean,
So imagine signing and giving him $2 million and you could lose $2 million, but you're somebody who has $2 million to give away to some like maybe not guy, teenager who, that's just part of your business is taking those risks on guys who may or may not make it because it's very hard to make it in baseball. But then the moment you see him sign a $340 million contract,
yeah, exactly.
Then then you feel like you struck gold. But he's definitely not going to see another big contract like that. And we'll see how that works out in the lawsuit. I'm definitely going to keep tabs on that.
And he's lost some. I mean, he did lose some contract last year because he was suspended. I mean, not that much, but
80 games, half a season,
for half the season. But and so
his big thing is he's relying on it being in California, so they're more favorable to someone like himself. So that's what he's banking on, and that might be what actually ends up working in his favor is that it's in California and they're more friendly for a lawsuit like that. Anti-predatory behavior and things of that nature. So he really leaned into the statement I read on I was just a poor taken advantage of boy. I don't want everybody else to end up like me. And so he definitely hit the sentimental button.
And like, honestly, I don't know. He may be doing this more for just to pull the rug out from that company other than get his money back.
Yeah, sure. It could be to truly do what he said is to prevent it from being some young kid from wherever that ends up falling into a situation like that where they don't have a major league father and they sign that deal and they don't make a $340 million contract deal a few years later. They wash out. And what do you owe? $2 million? Like I see where he's coming from. I hope that his statement is how he feels. And this is more or less to ward off this stuff in the future and not so much about just recouping his money. And he should have enough money regardless of whether he recoups this money. If he doesn't, then the whole Tatis family needs to be under investigation for their finances and how they handle those because they're not doing it very well.
The name of this company was Big League Advance, by the way, and that's what they did. They advanced him a couple of million, bet on him, and it was a hell of a payoff.
Yeah, so BLA is what it's in the title, but for example, in the ESPN article that I read yesterday, one time BLA sued Padres outfielder Franmil Reyes June 16th in Delaware court claiming breach of contract, saying he owes them $404,000 in past due payments plus $298,000 in interest, as well as a yet to be determined amount from when he played in Japan. So Franmil Reyes, who I don't even think is in the league now, owes this company that forwarded him whatever they did, $1 million, $2 million, or whatever. He now owes them at least $700,000+, and not counting his time in Japan and whatever he made. So you can see where that's the predatory side of this is when it does work out, like Fernando Tatis, he signs a $340 million deal. On the flip side, Franmil Reyes is in the hole for nearly $1 million and has no hopes probably of paying that back.
Yeah, I last time I saw him in baseball was 23 with Kansas City. I don't know if he's still playing or not in Major League Baseball. When we come back, Paul Catalina and his top five, and Andrew Valade with the poll results, 365 Sports.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's that time. Top 5 time. Brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Please use our promo code 365 Sports when you go to flagandanthem.com. Continuing our Big 12 Transfer Newcomer Series, the Pistol Pete Edition. Oklahoma State, they had a lot of transfers, and by God did they need them. After an abysmal 3-9 season last year, the worst season in Mike Gundy's tenure, and they didn't win a conference game. They did not win a conference game last year. That does not happen in Stillwater all that often. Emory Winter is smiling about it because he hates Oklahoma State. Just know that. And he's still in the afterglow of the Thunder winning. So he's just been insufferable. Let's go through this and tell you how they're going to attempt to get better in Stillwater. Number 5, safety Zaquan Patterson comes in from Miami. Long, rangy athlete, tall, can get after the ball a little bit. You know, going into the Miami secondary to improve is a little bit nebulous, considering that was one of the big weaknesses of their team. But he is very highly rated. He came very highly recruited, and maybe a change of scenery is just what he needs. Number 4, defensive lineman Kyran Duhan comes from UTEP. Great pass rusher out there at UTEP, gets after the quarterback. They lost Colin Oliver. They lost a couple other players. They're going to need guys who can get after the quarterback in Stillwater. This is the first step to doing that. Number 3, also along the defensive line, defensive end Wendell Gregory comes in from South Carolina. This is one of those, looks good getting off the bus kind of a guys, and we'll see what his production is when he comes to Oklahoma State. But they definitely needed to improve along the defensive line. They got 2 bookend defensive ends who should be plug-and-play starters and making plays in the Big 12 right away in Duhan and Gregory. Number 2, guard Bob Schick. I could not find a very clear picture of him with his helmet off. But when I tell you that this guy's hair and beard fits Stillwater, Oklahoma, more than any player who may have ever played at Stillwater, Oklahoma, please look up Bob Schick. Look him up. Google him right now, and you'll see a fantastic picture. A fantastic picture of a guy who looks like a roadie for the Allman Brothers. It is ridiculous. And I didn't just put him on here because of this. They needed help along the offensive line. Cowboy fans last year thought the offensive line was going to be their strength because they returned all 5 starters and there were a ton of starts. In fact, it somehow got collectively worse across the board. So you bring in a guy like Bob Schick from Virginia Tech, good run blocker, has played with mobile quarterbacks there, and steps into a program that's a little more consistently run than the Hokies are right now. And number 1, obviously, it's quarterback Haas Haney. I mean, let's not drill down on the fact that he's got a pretty awesome name. And here's the thing. Worst case scenario with that name, you own a really successful car dealership. Come to Haas Haney Dodge and get yourself a Charger. I mean, the copy writes itself. But very highly touted coming out of high school, was at TCU last year, hasn't played yet. But one thing he is that Alan Bowman wasn't, and we love Alan Bowman here on this show, he is young. He has time. He doesn't have to worry about the NCAA coming in and okay, well, we'll let you play till you're 36 years old. None of that is hanging over his head. He doesn't have the injury history and all that. They've got a fresh start at quarterback with Haas Haney, and he's young, ready to be molded. That is good news for Mike Gundy, who, over the whole of his career, until pretty much just last year, has been a pretty good quarterback developer in his time. Whether they're old like Brandon Weeden and Alan Bowman or young, he has had good quarterbacks across the board for the almost entirety of his coaching career at Oklahoma State. Haas Haney kind of fits that mold. We'll see if he and Doug Meacham can get the most out of Haas this year. That's going to do it for us. Smokey has some poll results. Read them now.
Oops, I'm sorry. I jumped the gun there. Andrew Valade, who puts up the polls, and then we give the results. Here are which team won the Kevin Durant trade. I said Houston Rockets, and not, a pretty nice chunk, 38%. Nobody wins. And then also the Phoenix Suns, both teams win.
That's 36%, but same thing, and nobody wins. I think that's
these contacts have not helped me out.
Anti-NBA crowd getting involved there, which is fine. I'm part of that some of the time. But I think it remains to be seen. But I think the Rockets, from a PR standpoint, definitely win for right now. They got the big moment at that Fanatics Fan Fest thing where Kevin Durant's up there with Kay Adams right as the trade breaks, and they get to talk about it immediately in front of that crowd. And that was cool. So, I think the Rockets, at least initially, just on the PR part of it. And then I think it just totally remains to be seen on the actual court. But he's still very, very good. And I think being a Longhorn, that plays really well into the just, people, they're going to show up for Kevin Durant regardless of where he plays. But I think being back in Texas, especially towards the end of his career, they're going to have a lot of love for him.
Cherry on top. For sure. That I think the Rockets won it. I think as good players Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green are, I kind of think that the Suns got fleeced for this a little bit, but that remains to be seen. They're trying to offload money. By the way, Emery Winter, our erstwhile producer, met Kay Adams at the Super Bowl in Vegas. 2 years ago in Vegas, or in Vegas. Yeah, in Vegas.
She has a pretty nice setup off to the side.
And she walked up to him and said, "I like your jacket," and he's like, "Thanks."
Turn into the mask, the tongue rolls out of his eyes bulge out.
Did you just disintegrate?
Yeah.
I liked your jacket. And he's like, "Thank you."
Sounds like Zach Burke.
Yeah.
Oh, Emery.
All those years of what will I do when the girl comes up and talks to me? I'm going to seize the moment.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it. And then she comes up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. But he has gone after getting some of those guests. He didn't get her.
Now, look, he got paid sporadic this year and was dedicated to it. I don't know how much he talked to her when she got there.
The segment or Page?
Yeah, he was dedicated to it.
Also, he's going to get Sophie Cunningham on with us in San Francisco at the Super Bowl. All right, the other one is private funding good for college sports? And the numbers are 31% no to corporate, 30% maybe if used right, 27% yes, it's the future, and 19% not sure, still figuring it out.
I think it can be. I'll say I'm a maybe on that one. Depends on who it's from.
Yeah, I'm a maybe on it as well. I think I'm with the 16% of not sure, still figuring it out. I understand why Boise State's doing it. I also understand why a lot of people would be hesitant in doing it. So I think it depends on the details, and that's not really cohesive for a poll question like this. It's a little bit more complex, really. But, yeah, I think I'm still figuring it out on my end if I think this is a good idea or not.
All right. Thank you, Andrew, for doing that. The polls, couple of them every day. We have the results at the end of the show following Paul's top 5. Emery Winters dialing up 365 Sports tonight on the CW tonight at 10:30. Garrett Ross running the mothership.
I mean, here's the thing about those 2 poll questions. We're going to see next season how that trade works out, but we're also going to see on that other one too, because Boise's going forward, it looks like, and there will be others that follow. So I think it's only a matter of time before we see what that actually looks like on the other side.
All right, for Paul Catalina and for Craig Smoak, we appreciate you every day. Please subscribe if you haven't, or pass the word along if you haven't. We'll see you tomorrow at 3. This is 365 Sports. Good night.